One Piece, Heaven Defying, Awakening the Dark Lord Part 3. Yuan's inexplicable words made Zhang Guo and Garp both stunned. The intention to arrest Whitebeard and Yuan immediately turned into vigilance. Zhang Guo suddenly looked at the surrounding sea. There was no trace of other pirate ships on the endless sea. This means it was not an ambush by the Rock's pirates. Besides, if it was really an ambush by the Rock's pirates, why would they let the Roger pirates go? Think of this. Zhang Guo felt much more at ease. Don't look anymore, it's just us. Seeing Zhang Guo's cautious and vigilant look, Yuan couldn't help but smile. Zhang Guo was not embarrassed by what he said. He turned his head and looked at Yuan, with murderous intent in his eyes, and said in a low voice, "Casa Yuan, I won't let you get away this time." Garp also felt strange. Newgate and Yuan were just two people, but they didn't run away when they saw the Marine Army? Run? Laozi doesn't plan to run. Yuan hugged Luanhui and smiled coldly. Zhang Guo frowned, feeling more and more that something was wrong. Where does Yuan's confidence come from? Ha ha ha, Newgate, it seems that this guy has a lot of confidence in you. He doesn't really think that you can protect him, does he? Garp couldn't help laughing at Whitebeard after listening to Yuan's shameless words. He subconsciously thought that Yuan was so arrogant because he relied on Whitebeard. Whitebeard stared at Garp with a strange look in his eyes, and couldn't help turning his head to look at Yuan beside him, and suddenly felt funny. Marine doesn't seem to know Yuan's strength. Didn't they notice the Conqueror's collision just now? Sengoku and Garp are really getting worse and worse. Garla la la la! Garp, you bastard came really fast. Whitebeard laughed calmly, not at all panicked by being surrounded by so many Marines. At this time, suddenly a Marine noticed John's figure floating on the sea. He immediately exclaimed in disbelief, "Look, that figure, looks like John!" Hearing this, many Marines looked in the direction he pointed. Garp and Sengoku turned their heads at the same time. That guy! It's really John! John was killed? Zhang Guo was shocked. John is a famous pirate who has escaped from Marine's capture several times. More importantly, he is a member of the Rock's pirates. Who killed him? Is it Roger? But if it was Roger, why didn't Newgate react the right way? Zhang Guo frowned and thought. I guess several answers in my mind. But there is no correct answer. He even speculated that it was Whitebeard who killed John, and never thought that it might be Yuan who did it. Newgate, are you guys fighting among yourselves? Garp said casually, feeling very amused. The pirates killed each other, and a big pirate died. How could Marine be unhappy? And when he thought about the impending arrest of Newgate and Yuan, Garp's heavy mood also eased a lot. Whitebeard looked quite helpless. Garp, Laozi will not kill that bastard. There was a big smile on his face. Whitebeard finally knew what the joy of playing was. Watching Sengoku and Garp making random guesses like clowns in front of him was more fun than fighting. Could it be that bastard Roger? Garp asked in slight surprise. Do you think Laozi will let Roger kill John? Whitebeard asked. Garp was stunned and scratched his hair randomly. It's neither this nor that. How did John die? Yuan, who had been watching coldly from the side, finally couldn't help but take a step forward and said coldly, Are you going to waste a whole day on this boring topic? Zhang Guo, Garp, let's settle the grudges from last time today. While talking, Yuan calmly took out the Samsara dao. The deep luster gave Marine a sense of oppression, and he seemed to be able to feel the biting chill released by the blade. This knife! A trace of surprise flashed across Zhang Guo's eyes behind his glasses, and he said in amazement, The reincarnation path of the 12 skills of the Supreme Great Sword. It's actually the most mysterious Supreme Sword? Garp raised his eyebrows, feeling quite surprised. Yuan understood immediately. It seems that the reputation of Path of Reincarnation is very great. But I don't know why it didn't appear later. Could it be that it is in the hands of the celestial dragons or has flowed into the Knights of God? Yuan guessed silently. But it doesn't matter which case it is. Anyway, the knife is mine now. Don't think you can make up for the gap in strength with just a great sword. Zhang Guo let out a low shout, and his body suddenly shone with golden light. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a golden Buddha several feet tall. Human fruit mythical beast great Buddha form. The Buddha's head was solemn, with murderous intent. Garp rolled up his sleeves, his whole body burning with fighting spirit, and a strong sense of oppression came towards him. The marine hero who suppressed the pirates with a pair of iron fists showed his sharp edge and displayed an extremely powerful momentum. Kulala la la la! Whitebeard took a sudden step forward. Who are you going to deal with? He actually took the initiative to let Yun choose his opponent. Garp and Zhangguo were even more confused. Newgate, what does this mean? Do you really want Yun to die? But what happened next surprised them greatly. Instead of refusing, Yuan said nonchalantly, Warring States, this old bastard had a good time beating me last time. So this time, Laozi wants to fight back. Zhangguo felt that he was being looked down upon when he heard Yuan's light words. He flew into a rage and said, Boy! You can't run away this time! Buzz! The golden Buddha raised his palm, with destructive waves lingering in his palm. Shockwave! Break out! Run! Which of you saw Grandpa running away? Don't really think of Marine as the master of the sea! Yuan suddenly jumped up and slashed with his sword. The blade reveals a strong edge. It was like a dazzling sun rising in the sky. Boom! The wheel of reincarnation slashed down towards the shock wave. Last time, Yun was overwhelmed by the shock wave. This time, I was able to completely counter the shock wave. No! Instead, he suppressed the shock wave with his backhand. The shock wave flashing white light was defeated by Yun. The figure in the sky rushed directly towards Zhangguo. What? It can actually completely block Laozi's shockwave? Zhangguo's expression changed drastically, and he felt incredible at this scene. Last time, Yun couldn't resist. What is happening? Could it be that Yun has merged with someone else's shadow? But immediately Zhangguo noticed a familiar fluctuation on Yuan's body. It was the same momentum as when he fought Roger just now. What? The person who fought Roger was Yun. That intensity of conqueror's collision. It was actually performed by Yun. The hearts of the warriors are beating fiercely. This is absolutely ridiculous. How could Yun possibly have the strength to fight Roger? The warring states are incredible. It is clear that not long ago, Yun was still a strong man who was not considered to be in the mainstream. How long has it been? He actually jumped into the ranks of top powerhouses? Zhangguo shook his head violently to dispel the ridiculous suspicion in his heart. No! Laozi doesn't believe it! Yuan didn't know Zhangguo's self-deceiving mentality, and even if he knew, he wouldn't care. He has only one goal. Revenge. There's something wrong with this guy Yun's aura. Garp also noticed something strange and was about to take action. Song Yunqi has already struck. Since Yun has taken action, how can Whitebeard just watch Garp and Sengoku fight 2 against 1? Newgate! Garp growled and engaged Whitebeard in battle. At the same time, Yuan has arrived in front of the Buddha. He raised the knife with both hands and chopped down fiercely. Golden muscles and jade bones. Steel balloon. The whole body's strength accumulates to the peak as the spirit rises. Brush. Cut it down with a sword. Zhangguo narrowed his eyes, stretched out his arm, and blocked in front of him with the golden Buddha's palm. Boom! A strong and dull sound roared. Bang, bang, bang! The golden Buddha actually took 3 steps back before he could stabilize himself in the face of the powerful blow. Every step back crushed the deck beneath my feet. What? How did your power become so terrifying? Zhangguo was extremely shocked at the moment, and roared in shock and anger, feeling the power of Yun's explosion. He seemed to believe that it was Yuan and Roger who had fought. But one thing Zhangguo still couldn't accept was how Yun suddenly became stronger. After Whitebeard and Garp fought, they both distanced themselves from each other. What's wrong with this guy? This scene made Garp frown, unable to understand the change in Yun. Kulala la la la! Yun will give you a big surprise! Whitebeard laughed heartily. And the next second, a figure suddenly jumped out from behind Whitebeard. Whitebeard, you've revealed your weakness! A Marine general holding a battle axe suddenly attacked and swung the axe to chop off Whitebeard's head. There was a flash of murderous intent in Whitebeard's eyes. Without waiting for Garp to make a move, a ball of white light suddenly flashed on Whitebeard's fist. Smashed down heavily. Snap! There was a sound like glass breaking. Where the fist landed, illusory broken lines appeared. The Marine commander who was preparing for a sneak attack was hit by a terrifying shock force and fell into the sea with blood spurting out of his mouth. Just an ant! But the power of Whitebeard's punch was not that great. After repelling the sneak attacker, a Marine warship behind them was also directly smashed and sank into the sea. The Marines on the ship shouted for help and the situation became chaotic. The power of earthquake people! Don't come forward to interfere! Garp gave orders to the Marines around him with a serious face. A battle of this level is simply not something they can get involved in with their strength. Although Garp himself is also a lieutenant general. But sometimes, there is an insurmountable chasm between lieutenant generals. The battle that took place here did not affect Zhang Gui and Yuan at all. The two men launched a violent attack. The Golden Buddha's palm and the path of reincarnation kept colliding, and it was difficult to tell which was better. Zhang Gui became even more frightened, horrified at the improvement in Yun's strength. How on earth did you do it? Your strength increased so much in such a short period of time. Sengoku roars, finally understands the meaning of Rock's Pirate's strongest monster. Go to hell and ask the King of Hell! Yuan turned around and swept the blade across. Zhang Gui's eyes were indifferent and his pupils suddenly contracted. Conqueror's dominance, release. Sizzle. In an instant, arcs of lightning wrapped around the Golden Buddha's palm, exuding a terrifying and powerful aura. Bang! The Golden Buddha used his domineering power to evade Yuan with one palm. Yuan stopped at the edge of the deck and steadied himself. He held the knife in one hand, his expression remained calm. Domineering. Then let me show you my best self. Yuan grinned, a smile full of murderous intent. Zhang Gui suddenly felt a chill on his back, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. I saw Yuan walking forward slowly step by step. An illusory shadow quietly emerged under his feet, like a country. A rustling black cloak suddenly appeared behind him. Phantom dark lines formed on his body, just like tattoos, but those lines looked more like indescribable horrible creatures, which was frightening and terrifying. The black and white eyes were even deeper, like an abyss that could swallow everything. There was a golden mark flashing on the forehead, and a faint golden glow was flowing. From a distance, it looks like a crown being crowned and a king being enthroned. The king of Shadow World. Coming to the world. The awakened form of the darkened king, the king is coming. The strength has increased dramatically. Yuan's aura suddenly became deeper and more powerful and domineering than before. A circle of shadow suddenly spread. Field release. Awakened form skilled darken realm. Zhang Gui only felt his body sink, as if he was being suppressed by something strange. Hundreds of shadows danced in the air, as if worshipping their king. The next moment, all in one, mixed with the armament Haki and divine armor, a majestic and murderous battle armor was formed, covering Yun's body. 10,000 shadow armor, fusion. Yun's momentum grows again. Brush. Shadow Yuan disappeared quietly and merged into Yuan's body. Shadow form, fusion. There is an indescribable power in those terrifyingly deep eyes. Conqueror's Kamui, Tangle. TSK, TSK, TSK. Countless dark and deep arcs of electricity swirled around Yun. The blade of the wheel of reincarnation flows with an incomparable power, and its sharpness seems to be able to cut the heaven and earth apart. So far, Yun really exploded. Show your strongest power. All means of amplification are fully utilized. An extremely huge illusory shadow seemed to appear behind him, overlooking the entire world. The Darkened King has arrived. The whole world will become a battlefield. The power of the king. Unstoppable dominance. Whitebeard suddenly turned his head and looked at Yuan, who seemed to be in the Shadow Kingdom, with a dull look in his eyes. This is far more terrifying than the fight with Roger just now. This guy didn't even use his full strength when fighting Roger. Whitebeard didn't know what to feel for a moment. Are you impressed by Yun's abnormal growth? Or are you horrified by his terrifying power? He found that every time Yun made a move, he was refreshing his understanding. It always makes everyone feel amazed and deeply shocked. Even now, Whitebeard feels that Yun is a natural-born king. Otherwise, how to explain that spirit? To know. Yun was only 17 years old at this time. Garp's face was also frozen. When he heard Whitebeard's words, his eyes suddenly widened and he said in disbelief. It turned out that he and Roger were fighting. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Garp would never have believed that Yun was so strong. He was almost beaten to death by Laozi before. What's happening now? Could it be that Laozi is dreaming? Garp even began to doubt himself. He even felt that Yun was about to reach Rock's level. Second Rock's. It appeared. Garp's heart trembled, and he immediately burst out with a strong killing intent. The worst possible outcome must not happen. Yun stared at the big Buddha Zhanggue indifferently, and his deep eyes, as if looking down at him, were frightening. The wheel of reincarnation, shining with snow-white light, waved gently. The words like a divine decree resounded across the sea. In front of my sword you are all ants! Yun is now in his true awakening form. Just now fighting Roger. He was not serious, he was just getting familiar with the power of awakening. Besides, there is no need to fight a life-and-death battle with Roger. In addition to Rayleigh, there are several powerful officers on Roger's pirate ship, but Douglas Bullet is not among them. At this time, Bullet had not yet joined Roger's pirate group. But facing the warring states, Yun won't hold back. The surrounding air pressure is extremely low. The pirates and marine soldiers felt extremely depressed and even had difficulty breathing. The whistling wind and the flashing thunder all showed the horror of Yun's current condition. Whitebeard and Garp were both extremely shocked when they saw Yun's transformation. But the most shocking thing, the warring states period. The big Buddha Zhanggue's body was shining with brilliant golden light. His expression was more solemn than ever before. His eyes were fixed on Yun, and there was a solemn look in his eyes. This strong sense of oppression even made Zhanggue wonder if Rox himself was here. That kind of domineering aura like that of a king. So far, it has only been shown on Rox. Who on earth are you? Zhanggue roared and questioned in a deep voice. He couldn't convince himself that a person could become so much stronger in just a few days. Even though Garp and I have both grown to where we are now after years of hard work. Even someone like Charlotte Linlin, who was called a natural-born freak, had to rely on time to grow to where she is now. How could someone do it in just a few days? No. To be exact, it was only tens of millions of bounties when he first emerged. But in just 1 month, standing directly on the peak of the sea. This completely subverts the cognition of this wise general of the warring states period. He didn't know yet that Yun's transformation started from a powerless boy, otherwise he would be even more shocked. Kasa Yun. Yun's eyes, like winter stars, stared at Zhanggue quietly, his voice filled with condescending coldness and indifference. His eyes are deep and his gaze is bright. It's like the gaze of a king, making people dare not look into his eyes. Zhanggue cursed in his heart. Laozi is not asking your name. He even suspected that Yun was an old monster who had eaten some special devil fruit and regained his youth. But it is inconsistent with the ability of the shadow fruit. The warring states period was in complete chaos. Just stop worrying about it. Because there is no time. Yun had already moved. I couldn't see how he moved. Not even a trace was left. The figure disappeared in the last second. The next second he appeared in front of the golden Buddha. Swish! The snow-white blade cut through the arc of electricity between the two people, causing an explosive chain reaction and slashed towards Zhanggue. Jean Guo's eyes widened with anger, and he suddenly slapped out with his palm. Boom! The collision and explosion of Conqueror's entanglement attack, causing great turmoil and shock. But Yuan and Jean Guo ignored it. Both sides acted quickly. The Buddha's figure became extremely agile, dodging attacks and launching attacks while dodging and launching attacks. However, Yuan held the knife with both hands and slashed down like a madman. The power contained in each strike is probably enough to kill any Marine Vice Admiral except Garp in seconds. Such an offensive will naturally suppress the Warring States period. What's more important is that Yuan's strength is so strong that it has surpassed that of the Warring States period. Under the explosion of various amplification methods, in the suppression of the Warring States by the Dark Realm, Yuan completely had the upper hand. The surrounding Marines stared with eyes wide open, looking at the golden Buddha's retreating figure in disbelief, with expressions of shock and horror emerging on their faces. That pirate who was beating up Lord Sengoku, was he really Kaseyun? Last time I saw him with my own eyes, he couldn't even withstand the shockwave from the Buddha's attack. What's going on? Lord Jean Guo is not going to lose, is he? In the Marine's impression, Yuan is just a small pirate, and he was almost killed by Jean Guo last time. But this time the situation reversed, as if it was a heavy blow to them. Such terrifying power prevented them from getting close, and they even subconsciously moved away. 2 Marine warships were affected and shattered and sank into the sea, with almost no Marine soldiers on board surviving. The pirates were equally shocked. After all, they know the whole story. Yuan first fought with Marine, who was guarding the celestial dragons. Later, for some unknown reason, a conflict broke out between him and Captain John, and he killed Captain John. Then he fought with the powerful Roger again. Even after so many battles, now it still suppresses Marine, wise General, Sengoku. What a domineering and powerful person this is. If there was no danger of being affected by the destructive attack at any time, the pirates would definitely cheer for Yuan at this time. Newgate, where on earth did you find this monster? Garp cursed and was worried about Jean Guo with a heavy heart. I didn't know his strength has become so terrifying. The shock in Whitebeard's eyes was hard to erase. He was the only one who knew the time when Yuan practiced. So I can better understand the horror of Yuan. As for Marine, although Undercover will successfully deliver the information, no one in Marine believed that Yuan had only been practicing for 7 days at that time. I didn't believe it at that time. It's even more impossible to believe now. In that case, Laozi will beat you up first and then deal with that little devil. The words fell. Garp's body was suddenly surrounded by dense arcs of electricity. Realizing that the situation in the Warring States period was not right, Garp was also ready to fight. Kulala! Garp! You can't escape today! Whitebeard also uses tyranny. Laughing heartily. Before, I would retreat when I saw Marine, and would only fight when it was unavoidable. Today, Yuan said. Whitebeard suddenly realized this problem. Why do you retreat when you see Marine? Just kill them and that's it. Therefore, Whitebeard felt more pleased than ever after this battle. Enjoying a thrilling battle. And the transition to a hunter's mindset. He admitted that Yuan was like a madman, but it felt really good to be crazy for once. Come on! Laozi bears the name of Marine. Justice cannot be violated. Garp's expression was serious and earnest. He was totally serious at this moment. This battle. No room for surprises. Must win. Kulala! Let me see what Marine's justice can do to me. Whitebeard swung his sword. Cloud Cut. It can be said to be the largest sword among the 12 supreme swords. It carries fierce power, mixed with thunder and lightning. Cut it down suddenly. What greeted Song Yunxia was a pair of iron fists. Those iron fists that have beaten almost all pirates. Boom! A strong collision broke out again. The Marines and pirates around them retreated at the same time in perfect harmony. 2 major battlefields. Each one is more terrifying than the other. It's all Conqueror's tangled collision. There are only a few Conquerors awakened in the ocean. Those who can master the art of dominance are even rarer. But it happens. 4 powerful and domineering men gathered here to fight at the same time. As the 4 people's murderous intent became stronger. They all have their reasons for killing each other. As Jean Gua continued to retreat under Yun's violent and rain-like slashing, the rage in his heart burned more and more vigorously. After the real fight, all the shocking thoughts at the beginning were gone. Jean Gua never expected that he would be suppressed. This made him angry. The observation Haki always pays attention to the attack direction of Path of Samsara. Suddenly, a gleam of light flashed in the eyes of the Buddha Jean Gua. "Drink!" Jean Gua roared and stretched out his huge golden Buddha's palm, which was filled with irresistible mighty power. Bang! Another blow of the knife came down. The shock of terror was everywhere. Jean Gua endured the powerful impact and clenched his hand that was wrapped in armed color domineering. The slightly darker golden Buddha's palm, wrapped in armament Haki, tightly grasps the blade of Samsara. Jean Gua ignored the numbness in his arms from the shock and held on tightly to the wheel of Samsara. The other Buddha's palms suddenly clenched into a fist. Tyranny and tearing. A punch filled with destructive power came down at Yun. At this time, the path of reincarnation is still in the hands of the Buddha. Yun grabbed the handle of the knife tightly and was unable to get away for a while. If you dodge this punch, your path of reincarnation will be taken away. But Yun didn't even think about dodging. The eyes became deeper. But it's also brighter. It seems that stars are lighting up. The golden mark on the forehead shone with luster, and the light it emitted became brighter and brighter. Yun punches. Golden muscles and jade bones. Steel balloon. And various increases. All the strength exploded and gathered in one punch. Blood is rushing throughout the body, cells are whirring, and countless warm currents are generated at this moment. Swish! The fist wrapped around Kamui blasted towards the dark golden Buddha fist without fear. Boom! Thunder explodes. Everyone's eardrums were buzzing. The center of the storm. A figure surrounded by golden light flew out backwards, slammed heavily into the cabin, and sank into the bottom of the ship. It narrowly missed the bottom of the boat. Almost fell into the sea. The wind continues. But everyone's breathing seemed to have stopped. The figure held up by the shadows beneath his feet and standing in the air with a knife in hand made everyone extremely afraid. And deeply shocked. Because of the great Buddha Warring States period. Got blown away. It was obvious that Daibutsu Sengoku seized the opportunity to launch an attack to reverse the situation. But in the end, he ended up flying out in a mess. The Marines were dumbfounded, having a bad feeling in their hearts that an outcome that they could hardly accept was about to happen. Warring States! Garp was shocked and angry, and shouted loudly. He didn't expect that Jean Gua would be at such a disadvantage. It looks like he has no ability to fight back. That was the Sengoku in the form of a giant Buddha. After the Buddha fruit transforms, the physical strength is greatly enhanced. Definitely far superior to the shadow fruit. A mythical beast. A common species. The superiority is immediately judged. But who would have thought that the one who fell into the disadvantage was the great Buddha Warring States? Is this really the shadow fruit? Whitebeard began to doubt rocks in his mind. Although he and Garp were fighting fiercely, both of them were paying attention to the battlefield between Sengoku and Yun. That punch just now. Although there is the blessing of Bakon. But it was more of a pure physical confrontation. Especially during the Warring States period, the country still had the advantage of taking the initiative. Plus the big Buddha form. There is no way he can lose to Yun. But the result of the deviation was that Jean Gua was blown away. Garp and Whitebeard would never have thought. The ordinary shadow fruit has been developed by Yun into an unprecedented devil fruit form. Mythical beast species, Dark-born king form. Nika the sun god? Laozi is the lord of the dark in-world. Everywhere you go is the king's land. If light blocks the way, kill it with one blow. What's more, what kind of waves can a giant Buddha create? After the battle just now, Yuan has become more proficient in controlling the power in his body. Especially that punch just now. It seems to run through the yin and do meridians. Various forces in the body reach a state of balanced fusion. It's an ultimate harmony. Not mindless violence. The illusory shadow on his body became more and more intense. But his eyes became brighter and brighter. Bang, bang, bang. The big Buddha Zhanggue crawled out from the bottom of the huge battleship, his eyes revealing a violent emotion. Even the wise General Zhanggue was overwhelmed by the defeat. He couldn't admit that he was not as good as Yun. The little devil who was beaten by me before and had no power to fight back suddenly suppressed me in the blink of an eye. This is impossible. The stronger you are, the more reasons you have to die. Zhanggue breathed heavily. The Buddha shone with golden light, even a little dazzling. 3 colors of domineering power burst out at the same time. Zhanggue tried his best to release all his strength. As the luster flowed, the golden Buddha's body became a little darker, which was the manifestation of the integration of tyranny into the fruit's ability. So it goes. The shock waves unleashed during the Warring States period would have the power of dominance and destruction. However, this kind of fusion is extremely energy-consuming. It is a unique trick that is not easily used in the Warring States period. Being able to develop the fruit and domineering power to such an extent, Sengoku is indeed very strong. But he was facing Yun, the cheating boy. I don't want to die, no one can kill me, Yun said indifferently. The extremely suppressed power in Zhanggue, like a volcanic eruption, did not change his mood at all. He bowed his head slightly. Looking at the samsara Tao that was shimmering like breathing, he chuckled and said, Are you already eager for the next blow? Not only the path of reincarnation reacted. Even the blue flame hanging around Yuan's waist had deep flame patterns flickering, as if begging Yuan to use it. Yuan felt something and a smile appeared on his indifferent face. Reach out and draw out the blue flame. Hold Path of Samsara in the right hand. Hold Blue Flame in your left hand. Influenced by Yun's own aura, the 2 famous swords seemed to respond with their own will. Especially the Path of Reincarnation, which is extremely strong. Okay then. Let's strike out together for the next blow, Yun murmured with a smile. Suddenly I remembered when I first crossed over. Learned swordsmanship by watching Shiki the Golden Lion chop. And he spontaneously mastered the multiple slashing techniques used in the dual sword style. And now, I just happen to have 2 swords that suit my taste. It seemed to echo the young man who had just traveled through time. Yuan was in a peaceful state of mind, as if he had realized something. The weak boy holding 2 broken swords at first. Now the Darkin King holds 2 famous swords. 2 completely different figures merged at this moment. Thousands of reincarnations. You are always yourself. Juvenile. My mind remains unchanged. The sword's intention remains unchanged. Everything is clear now. If you don't use your sword now, when will you? Yuan suddenly looked up, his bright eyes as dazzling as the sun. Darkin King. You can also hold the light. This knife. Send you to hell. Yuan's voice boomed. Suddenly thunder roared. Huge waves hit and sank it. The wind roars solemnly. It was as if they were expressing their submission to the king in their own way. Zhanggue's eyes widened, his eyes filled with fear and horror. He couldn't see Yun. All I can see is the sword that pierces through the sky, earth and sea. Instantly, the sword light pierces the sea. Whitebeard and Garp turned their heads at the same time, completely forgetting about their own battle, and looked at the sword shadows filling the sky and the earth with astonishment. What a horrible knife! Whitebeard felt a little palpitation in his heart. Warring States. Garp's pupils suddenly shrank, and he subconsciously wanted to rush over to help Zhanggue. But Song Yunxia suddenly attacked. There was no chance for Garp to get involved in the fight with Yun. This guy. How can it be so strong? Zhanggue originally thought that he could save the situation with his outburst. But after seeing the knife slashed by Yuan, my heart was filled with horror. He actually started to feel fear before he even made a move. This knife. You might die. This thought suddenly popped up in Zhangguo's mind. But in the face of a life-and-death crisis, how could the warring states just sit there and wait for death? Restrain the spread of fear in your heart. The golden Buddha's palm of the warring states period was surrounded by waves of pure white destruction. Tyranny shock wave. Boom! It was like millions of cannons firing at the same time. The violent and powerful shock waves slammed towards the blade. Zhangguo couldn't see Yun at all. Even the observation hockey can't be felt. Everything turned into a sword cutting down from the sky. They are obviously two knives. It's even the secret of the multiple slashing technique. But there is only one knife. King's blade. Invincible sword. Brush. The terrifying shock wave that was enough to destroy half of the island actually disintegrated inch by inch under the blade. A single blow that destroys everything. Thunder surrounds the violent turbulence. Boom! Under the extremely shocked gaze of the warring states period. The domineering shock wave shattered. That knife cut down directly. A sound like breaking porcelain sounded quietly. The dazzling golden light on the big Buddha Zhangguo suddenly became fragmented and full of cracks. The blade cut into it. He actually shattered his golden body with such force. Boom! The golden body was completely shattered. Zhangguo's body flew backwards uncontrollably, smashed into the cabin, shattered the bottom of the ship, and was swallowed up by the endless abyss of the sea. The storm gradually subsided, revealing Yun's invincible figure. Holding two swords, he descended from midair to the deck of the ship with the support of the shadow. The powerful oppressive aura surrounding them made all the marines and pirates hold their breath. They instinctively feel fear. The figure of the warring states period has long disappeared. Whitebeard suddenly clenched Kusunokiri with such force that veins popped out on his arms, which showed how shocked he was at that moment. He actually killed Zhangguo! Whitebeard still found it unbelievable at this time. Yun actually smashed Zhangguo's golden body with such force. Just how strong is this guy? Whitebeard believes that it is impossible for him to achieve the same level as Yun. This means Yun has even surpassed him. Garp had disappeared. The moment Zhangguo's golden body shattered and flew backwards, Garp suddenly rushed into the sea to save Zhangguo. Sengoku is a devil fruit user, and he will definitely die in the sea water. Whitebeard was in great shock and didn't bother to stop Garp. A shadow flickered on Yun's body, and then slowly dissipated the next second. All of your statuses are removed. No one noticed that his arms were shaking slightly. The blow that killed Zhangguo instantly was Yun's extreme state. The energy consumption was beyond imagination. Even a man with Yun's physique could not handle it. After all, that was a blow that crushed the warring states period. The more terrifying the power contained in it, the greater the consumption of Yun. You guys are crazy! Whitebeard looked at Yun and couldn't help but sigh. He looked at Yun like he was a lunatic. At first, Yun wanted to stay, and Whitebeard thought that he was holding back a grudge and wanted to vent it out in a fight before they could kill their way out. But I didn't expect it. Yun really killed Zhangguo. It's not as simple as venting your anger. But he really has the strength to kill the warring states. If Yun and Zhangguo fought alone, Zhangguo would be dead by now. But it's a pity. And Garp. Crash. Two figures emerged from the turbulent sea. Garp grabbed Zhangguo and jumped onto the deck of the marine fleet. He didn't care that he was soaked and gave the order directly. Retreat! Everyone, retreat! Sengoku was seriously injured, and Garp was in no mood to fight. Yun and Whitebeard looked at Sengoku, who was lying on the deck at the same time. His face was pale and bloodless. The most terrifying thing was the bloody wound in front of his body, spreading diagonally from his shoulder to his hip. The white bones were exposed in the chest cavity. You can even see the internal organs in the abdomen. If such a serious injury is not treated, the excessive blood loss will probably send Zhangguo to hell. Garp dare not delay. He stood on the deck with a gloomy expression, staring at Yun with extremely dark eyes full of anger. His best friend was almost killed. This made Garp very sad and even angrier. But now is not the time to seek revenge. The frightened and panicked Marine soldiers drove the Marine ships away at high speed as if they were escaping. There were even a few Marine warships that ended up like the Suicide Squad. It looked as if it was ready to crash into the pirate ship and die together with it. Huh! Yoon let out a breath. The cell phagocytosis technique was in operation, rapidly recovering the consumption. Do you want to catch up? Whitebeard asked with a smile. Yuen waved his hand. Forget it, we can't fight anymore. If we chase him now, Garp will definitely fight hard. It's easy to deal with him since he's not a special ability user, but it's not necessarily the case for us. Yoon felt that the blow was enough. Even if Jangwa didn't die, he would have lost half his life. That injury was far more serious than the one Hawkeye had left on Zoro. If marine medical technology was not so advanced now, the Warring States period is doomed to fail. Goo la 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 la! You really impressed Lousy. Yuen! Whitebeard laughed heartily. He almost blurted out that he wanted Yuen to join his team. But when he thought of Yun's strength, Whitebeard swallowed the words back. Not everyone can recruit Yuen now. He is no longer a rookie pirate who emerged from a pirate party. But it was a powerful pirate who severely damaged Daibutsu Sengoku. One of the men standing on top of the ocean. Boys, go back to Beehive Island! Whitebeard raised his arms and shouted. Yes! The pirates screamed excitedly at the top of their lungs. Wait, let's find a small town on the island and settle the girls that the celestial dragons kidnapped, Yuen said. Whitebeard looked at Yuen with a strange look in his eyes. You are becoming less and less like a pirate. Normally, these captured girls would be distributed among the pirates. But with the strength that Yuen just showed, even if the pirates had some ideas in their minds, they didn't dare to refute it. What? Pirates can't do good things? Yuen smiled and put the wheel of reincarnation and blue flame back into the sheath. That's not the pirate style. Whitebeard sighed. He didn't care at all about Yun's decision. These girls won't affect him in any way, so he might as well give Yuen some face. You should think about how to explain John to Captain Rox when you return. Killing each other is what he cannot tolerate the most. Whitebeard kindly reminded. Yuen nodded to show that he understood. In fact, I didn't think there was any problem. Just as John said at the beginning, Rox is not going to make things difficult for a cadre just because of a dead man. What's more, Yuen has submitted his pledge of allegiance. Plus, with his current power, Rox would definitely feel that he is more useful than John. Several pirate ships returned loaded with heavenly gold. We passed a small town on the way. Yuen went to settle the girls down, gave them some jewelry and left. That's all he can do. Whether they can survive depends on themselves. Anyway, if they were sent back to their original kingdom, they would surely die. The death of the celestial dragons. The Warring States were on the verge of death. This incident will have a significant impact. Beehive Island. The cadres gathered. Seeing Whitebeard and Yuen returning with a full load, either of them looked surprised. But when they saw John being carried up, his complexion completely changed. It's really that bastard John! Golden Lion Shiki exclaimed loudly. Although he was shocked, it did not prevent a smile from appearing on his face. Mama John is dead, what happened to you? Charlotte Linlin looked at Yuen, as if to confirm if he was okay. Kaido frowned and looked at Yuen back and forth. Based on his understanding of Yuen, John's death was definitely related to Yuen. He was just curious about how Yuen did it. Newgate! What happened to you? Were we ambushed? How did John die? Who killed him? Silver Axe couldn't help but ask. He was truly shocked. First place. Rox folded his arms, looked gloomy, and said nothing. No one knows what he is thinking. I killed John. Yuen took a step forward and looked up at Rox. Silver Axe was stunned. Golden Lion Shiki's smile froze. Charlotte Linlin suddenly turned her head and looked at Yuen in surprise. Kaido. Even if you killed him, don't admit it. Everyone could already sense the coming storm. You killed John? The fruit awakened? Rox raised his eyebrows. His calm tone made it impossible to feel his emotions. Yeah, I just woke up. Yun nodded in acknowledgement. Tell me what happened in detail. Rox leaned back in his chair and asked with interest. As for John's death, he didn't take it to heart at all. There's no point in keeping this trash who can't even beat Yun. The ultimate indifference. In the end, it was Whitebeard who stepped forward and narrated the course of the operation. Yun kills John. Everyone was stunned. Did the fruit awakening bring such a huge improvement to Yun? Yun versus Roger. All the cadres were dumbfounded. Is Yun so tough? He really doesn't know his place. Marine is coming. Roger, back off. Yun smashed the giant Buddha with one sword. The cadres were completely numb, as if they were listening to a foreign language. When Rox heard that Yun could fight Roger, darkness flowed in his eyes and he was surprised. But when he heard that Yun killed John Guo with one sword, even Rox stood up from his chair. His heart was in turmoil and he found it unbelievable. The other cadres came back to their senses. No! Newgate, are you kidding me? You said that Yun killed that bastard John. Laozi would believe it, but he chopped off the golden body of the Buddha Zhang Guo with one sword. How could that be possible? Laozi and Zhang Guo didn't fight like this. Easy. Golden Lion Shiki's cigar fell to the ground without him noticing, and he slammed the table to express his doubts. This? Yun is so strong! Kaido was stunned. I treated Yun as a little brother who needed my care, but he became stronger than me in the blink of an eye. Charlotte Linlin had no doubts at all, and her eyes shone with a murderous light. Have a baby! I must have a baby with my mother. 10 children born in 8 years. She had no idea that it was no longer her decision whether to have a child or not. The right to speak is in the hands of the more powerful Yun. How the hell is this possible? Newgate, you are not colluding with Yun to deceive us, are you? Ashika couldn't help but doubt. The main reason is that what Whitebeard said was too outrageous. It's simply unbelievable. Get lost. Whitebeard turned around and cursed at Ashika coldly. Are you worthy of Laozi's deception? Ashika's expression froze, and he cursed in his heart but kept silent. Rox finally spoke. How did you do that? Even if he awakens, he won't be able to kill the warring states with one blow. Doesn't this mean that this guy's strength is almost the same as Laozi's? When the fruit is awakened, its strength naturally increases. Yun explained calmly. And I also developed 2 shadow-assisted amplification forms of the shadow fruit, which are even more terrifying when awakened. At that time, I just thought that I had awakened my fruit and should be able to fight with Zhang Guo, so I wanted to test my own strength. I didn't expect that the sword would be so strong. Maybe there was also the reincarnation path. Yun patted the supreme sword at his waist. When Whitebeard heard his explanation, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. I couldn't help but recall the scene at that time. This knife. Send you to hell. You even thought of the words. It's obvious that he was going to kill Zhang Guo. And you said you didn't expect that sword to be so powerful? Whitebeard finally knew. Even when facing Rox, Yun was talking nonsense. Who knows how many things this kid has cheated them of before. Whitebeard knew what was going on, but he didn't say it out loud. That's the relationship between him and Rox. They broke up at the same time without any nostalgia. Whitebeard's goal is to start his own family. But not the leader of this group of treacherous pirates. Come on. None of these guys are willing to be his son. Rox narrowed his eyes slightly, and various emotions flickered in the flowing darkness. There is fear and suspicion. But Rox seemed to have thought of something, and suppressed all his emotions. Ha ha! Very good! Yun, you have proved how strong you are. John's team will be led by you, Rox said with a big laugh. Many cadres were stunned. Unexpectedly, instead of punishing John, Yun directly exposed his past. Silver Axe quickly lowered his head to look at John, who was lying there, wondering if he would be so angry that he would come back to life after hearing these words. Obviously. No. Yes. Yuen responded generously. John's squad may be a little difficult to manage, but whoever disobeys can be killed. After killing enough, the rest will be obedient. Originally, Yuen planned to face Rock's more rigorous interrogation or temptation. The worst-case scenario is a fight. But none of that happened. This made Yuen realize something. Rox needs strength. That means, the Valley of the Gods incident. It's approaching. Yuen returned to Beehive Island for another purpose, that is to covet everyone's devil fruit abilities. He now has an ancient seed in his hand. If you can comprehend the mystery, maybe you can draw inferences from it, and master the abilities of other devil fruits. This is why Yuen doesn't want to leave. Fortunately, Rox didn't pursue the matter further. But the other cadres have completely changed their view of Yuen. At the same time, Rox issued an order to summon all the pirate groups under his command. When Yuen heard the order, he understood something. It seems that they are preparing for the Valley of the Gods. After all, the news of the Valley of the Gods was secretly spread by the people on the island. It will take about 2 weeks from the time the news is passed to the start of the hunt in the Valley of the Gods. I hope these guys can generate more gold coins in the next 2 weeks. Wait until the meeting is over. Rox left first. Afterwards, the cadres also left one after another. What on earth are you doing? You even killed John! Even John Gua is no match for you! Shiki the Golden Lion came over to Yuen with a shocked look on his face. This is what he watched growing up. As a result, now it seems that I have surpassed myself. Golden Lion Shiki felt very upset. Ha ha ha, you guys just don't work hard enough. Yuen laughed heartily, looking very relaxed. Bullshit, Laozi has obviously spent more time practicing than you. Kaido said indignantly. Letting Yuen surpass me, I feel really upset. He was clearly treated as a younger brother, but in the blink of an eye he surpassed him. Kaido found it difficult to accept this for a while. Let's not talk about this anymore, let's go and have a drink. Yuen waved his hand and called. Golden Lion Shiki smiled and said, That's true. We should celebrate John's death. Yuen, Golden Lion Shiki, Kaido, and Charlotte Linlin left together as if they were a small group. Even Whitebeard couldn't fit in. Golden Lion Shiki has always had a good relationship with Yuen. Even though he was deceived by Yuen, he never held him accountable. Last time, he even came to Yuen's rescue when he was in crisis. As for Kaido and Charlotte Linlin, they are even closer to Yuen. It was late at night when the party ended. Yuen returned to his residence. He took out the devil fruit he got during the day and began to use his spiritual power to comprehend. You use your observation haki and divine sense to comprehend the power of the animal type, ancient type, mammoth form devil fruit. You gradually discover the rules of the devil fruit power. You have successfully comprehended the ability of the devil fruit animal type, ancient species, mammoth form. It's done! Second devil fruit ability! Yuen was so excited that he couldn't help but clench his fists. But a new realization arose in his mind. You have mastered a new move, summoning the Dark-In. Dark Devil Summoning, able to grant the contracted shadow the power of an animal-like devil fruit, transforming it into an animal form with greater power. The shadow ability has changed again. Dark Devil Summoning. In this way, as long as I can comprehend enough animal-type devil fruits, I can create a group of animal shadow armies. But this move is limited to animal type. What will happen if I comprehend Logia and Paramecia? Yuen was somewhat curious. Now he can no longer see the upper limit of his heaven-defying enlightenment. The acquisition of the second devil fruit ability allowed his physique to grow slightly. Ancient species, it's not much of an improvement for him now. Besides, he didn't want to turn into a stupid elephant and rush around in battle. So, giving the shadow the ability of animals would be the best choice. Yuen practiced the cytophagy technique for a whole night. After daybreak, go straight to Golden Lion for a friendly exchange. You comprehend the power of the floating fruit, but you are still unable to truly materialize the rules of the ability. After the discussion, Yuan sat aside with a frown, lost in thought. Is it impossible to obtain the rules of the devil fruit power by just comprehending the ability? Do I have to comprehend the devil fruit to do this? Yuan's vision of collecting all the devil fruit powers suddenly failed. Just when he was at a loss, things suddenly took a turn for the better. Charlotte Linlin is here. Yuan, you have to have a baby with me, Yuan said helplessly. Linlin, I will definitely find you when I want to have children in the future. I really don't feel like having children now. You want offspring? The remaining children are mine. You must cooperate with me today. Charlotte Linlin is ready to force her way in. Pity. If she was the previous Yuan, she would be stronger. She no longer has the final say over Yuan now. Then the fight broke out. Although it wasn't a life and death battle, it was still pretty intense. You continue to feel the power of the soul fruit and comprehend its secrets. The evolution of observation color and spiritual consciousness, observation color and spiritual soul. Yuan was stunned. Has observation Haki evolved again? Next second, Prometheus's fire blew him away. Charlotte Linlin strode forward, determined to get what she wanted. Linlin, that's enough. I'm afraid no one can go against Yun's wishes and make him do something he doesn't want to do. Kaido stood up helplessly to persuade them to stop fighting. Charlotte Linlin looked at Yuan, who stood up from the ground, looking like nothing had happened, and said through gritted teeth, Damn Yuan! You keep deceiving me! She naturally knew that Yuan had not used his full strength. The devil fruit ability was not used at all. He didn't even draw his knife. Fighting purely with your physical strength. This left Charlotte Linlin helpless. The other side. After comprehending the observation Haki and soul, Yuan immediately controlled the even more powerful and mysterious soul power to sense the devil fruit power of the golden lion Shiki suspended in midair. You comprehend the power of the Piapiao fruit. Your soul has successfully imprinted the power rules of the Piapiao fruit. You have successfully comprehended the power of the Piapiao fruit. The power of the soul. The power of the floating fruit. Yuan laughed happily and said, Linlin, I promise to have a child with you. Charlotte Linlin's soul fruit ability came at the perfect time. Seeing and hearing color and divine consciousness transform again. Seeing and hearing the color and the soul. It also contains the powerful power of the soul fruit. Such a change directly gave him the means to truly comprehend the abilities of other devil fruits. Completely solve Yun's troubles. Almost in the blink of an eye, he comprehended the third and fourth devil fruit abilities. Soul fruit. Floating fruit. Yuan was grinning so hard that he could hardly stop. Shiki the golden lion nearly fell off a floating boulder. You are so happy to have a baby with Linlin, why are you still fighting with her? Why don't you just go and give birth? Kaido frowned and stared at Yuan's cheerful laughter, and suddenly he regretted standing up to stop Linlin. No wonder Yuan didn't really fight during the battle. It turns out he really wants to have a baby. Maybe he just likes the feeling of being forced to struggle. Kaido looked thoughtful. It seemed that he had stopped him at the wrong time. Kaido reacted and silently retreated. Yuan, just shout and scream. Even if you scream your throat out, Laozi won't care about you anymore. No one knew why Yuan suddenly burst into laughter. Charlotte Linlin was confused by Yuan. Since you agreed to have a baby with me, why are you resisting? Yuan. Laozi agreed to have a child because he wanted to leave offspring, not because he was a stud. You can have a baby, but not now. Let's talk about it later. Yuan waved his hand and left quickly. Asshole! Charlotte Linlin gritted her teeth, but could do nothing about it. If I had known that Yuan would grow up to be so abnormal. You should have forced yourself to do it from the beginning. What a pity for such a good opportunity. Charlotte Linlin shook her head repeatedly and left side by side with Kaido. Seeing that there was nothing fun to watch, the Golden Lion Shiki, Achaku and others also left. The captain is gathering all the pirates under his command. I'm afraid there will be a big operation. We'd better act carefully and leave ourselves a way out, Kaido said in a low voice with a serious expression. Huh! Aren't you going to invite Yun to discuss this kind of thing? Charlotte Linlin was slightly stunned and asked in surprise. It was Yun who asked me to tell you. You insisted on having a baby with him, and he was afraid to see you. Kaido was speechless. Mama! Charlotte Linlin laughed, and her mood became somewhat cheerful. So it seems, Yun wasn't kidding when he said having a baby. Never mind. Give birth later. As long as he is willing. Well, always retain the last bit of strength to deal with any changes, and try not to fight with the strong Marines, Kaido whispered. Charlotte Linlin nodded. Both of them were a little curious. What exactly is Rox trying to do by making such a big fuss? It can't be about starting a world war directly, right? The days go by. Yun had sparring matches with almost all the cadres, but they were all limited in scope. The cadres didn't take it seriously. This also allowed Yun to successfully obtain the power of the Tremor fruit. He is not in his original Dark and King form now. Still in control of Soul fruit, Float fruit, Tremor fruit, Ancient type Mammoth form. Except for the Mammoth form, all of them are very powerful devil fruits. And the Dark fruit. Yun never found a chance to get close to Rox. Or never seen Rox. The Valley of the Gods. Kaido's devil fruit was obtained in the Valley of the Gods, and the meatball fruit will also appear in the Valley of the Gods. As for other devil fruits, it seems that they have not been mentioned. Let's see if there is a chance to get all of them. Got it! Yun looked out at the sea with a clear mind. Only at this moment did he feel truly free. If you want to leave, you can always go back to Rox. But to be on the safe side, I decided to wait until Rox died. What's more, several powerful devil fruits will appear in the Valley of the Gods. Of course Yun didn't want to miss it. With the blessing of the devil fruit, his strength becomes even stronger. It's just that he doesn't want to reveal his specialness for the time being. What would Rox do if he knew he had multiple devil fruit powers? Once the world government learns of this unconventional thing, I'm afraid the 5 elders will want to personally dig out Yun's secret. This is completely a subversion of the laws of the sea. The incompatibility of devil fruits. Only Blackbeard, who has an abnormal body structure, can do this. Conventional methods simply cannot break its characteristics. Yun only comprehended the ability, but did not eat the devil fruit. Maybe if he eats the devil fruit, he can only master one kind of power. At the same time, in a secret laboratory, Stussy stared at the serum sample after the test in front of him, his eyes frozen. Why? There is no devil fruit factor in Yun's blood. Did he eat the devil fruit or not? This is already the 3rd time Stussy has been tested. She makes sure nothing goes wrong. So what is going on with this result? Stussy took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down, but other thoughts came to her mind, her eyes burning. Yun, I discovered your secret. Say it. She saved the remaining Yun's blood even more carefully. In her opinion, Yun's blood is full of unknown power. As long as there is his blood, someone as powerful as him can be created. Stussy chose to keep the secret to herself, and did not report it to Rox. 2 weeks passed in the blink of an eye. Thousands of pirates have gathered on Beehive Island. All affiliated pirate groups of the Rox pirates have gathered. All cadres are absent. Rox stood on a high place, looking down at the pirates below, his look full of domineering. Young kids, the dragon pigs are holding a treasure hunting game in the Valley of Gods. Whoever can snatch their secret treasure, Laozi will directly promote him to a cadre. Follow Laozi and kill all the Tianlongzu. Rox's majestic and domineering voice echoed throughout the Beehive Island. What sparked the response was the enthusiastic cheers of tens of thousands of pirates. Yun pouted secretly. Letting these ordinary pirates steal the secret treasure is just a gimmick. The purpose is to use them to kill the Tianlong people. But this move is tantamount to a complete declaration of war on the Tianlong people. Ha 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 ha! Set off! Valley of the Gods! Rox domineeringly ordered to drink loudly. All pirates start boarding the ship. Hundreds of pirate ships were spread out on the sea, densely packed and full of oppression. Especially the pirate ship at the front. Gathered are the strongest group of pirates in this sea. Rox stood on the bow of the boat with his arms folded, looking into the distance with deep eyes, seeming to see the appearance of the Valley of the Gods. Behind him, Whitebeard, Golden Lion, and Yoon stood first. Then came Charlotte Linlin, Silver Axe, Achiku, Kaido, Bodhi, Chris, and Ross. All members of the Rox Pirates gather. Valley of the God of War. The war that will change the world is about to begin. At the same time, in the base of the Marine branch, Garp received a call from Cyborg Kong. Garp! Go to the Valley of the Gods immediately. Garp picked his nose and said nonchalantly, If we're not all ready, why would we ask Laozi to do it? After he escaped with Sengoku, he chose the nearest Marine branch base to land just so that Sengoku could receive treatment faster. After a doctor's surgery and the emergency deployment of several healing devil fruit users from the world government, Sengoku was finally able to save his life. Garp simply stayed here to guard the warring states period and did not return for half a month to respond. Not to mention the hunt in the Valley of the Gods. Garp was disgusted. The Valley of the Gods was originally a country, but because of a mistake it was designated as a hunting ground. All people are prey. I don't know who leaked the news about the Valley of Gods. The Rox Pirates and the Roger Pirates are all dispatched. I am on the way there. You should rush to the Valley of Gods as quickly as possible. Cyborg Kong's urgent voice came. Garp was stunned for a moment, and then his eyes were filled with angry murderous intent. Rox Pirates! Yoon, Laozi will never let you go! When he thought of Yoon, Garp summoned the branch's marine fleet without saying a word and set off for the Valley of the Gods. Marine moves out. All forces gather together. And the Valley of the Gods. The killing feast has begun. Valley of the Gods. The terrain is dangerous. On both sides are towering mountains, and in the middle there is a natural canyon that seems to have been split by a divine blade. The Valley of Gods, hence the name. But alas! The name of God offends the celestial dragons. Therefore, the country built in the Valley of Gods became a hunting ground for the Tianlong people to hunt and entertain. Here are the rules. 13 super rare prey. Each reward is 10,000 points. 150 rare prey. Kill them with one strike and you'll get extra rewards. There are still 100,000 ordinary prey. The prizes for the winners of this competition are here. Saturn Satan, leaning on a cane, slowly explained the rules. He is in charge personally, which shows the importance the world government attaches to this operation. On the table behind him, there were 6 mysterious treasure chests placed in order. Then he announced, The prey have 1 hour to hide. The hunters will arrive in 1 hour. Satan's voice fell. Completely open the bloody curtain of this death game. The video Den Den Mushi is transmitting the images to the Holy Land Marihoa. Countless celestial dragons cheered for it. Among the participants, the voice of Fegaland Galansheng is the highest. Just wait and see, kids. Garen turned his head and looked at the competitors behind him, his face brimming with confidence. The championship must belong to the Mamea family. I won't let you win, Garen. The other members of the Knights of God were in high spirits and full of fighting spirit. More than 100,000 people fled frantically. In the crowd, Ivankov, Bartholomew Bear, and Ginny, who were still little kids, also quickly found places to hide in the inconspicuous places of the crowd. Bang! 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 But at this time, some celestial dragons had already started shooting and attacking the slaves who were fleeing in panic. Rules and stuff don't matter at all. This is just a game of the celestial dragons. The scene changed. Ivankov, who had finally hidden himself, began to brainwash the slaves around him. He knew that the only way to survive was to seize the treasure in the box. Ginny prayed that word would get out and attract attention. A bloody massacre completely enveloped the Valley of Gods. The Marines surrounded the Valley of the Gods like an iron barrel. Even a fly can't get in. It's even more impossible for anyone to escape. But even with this kind of military force, still facing strong enemies. Pirate ship found. That's the Rock's pirates. The Marine's voice was filled with surprise and disbelief. The Rock's pirates are coming. Alert! Those pirates are all the forces of the Rock's pirates. When hundreds of pirate ships appeared in the Marine's field of vision, the Marines were completely stunned. The Rock's pirates are attacking with all their might. Who can resist? Fire! Fire now! The Marine commander gave the order with a trembling voice. But there was still an indelible fear in his eyes. Boom, boom. Boom. Marine launched the attack first, as if hoping that the shells would stop the Rock's pirates from getting closer. And at this time in the Valley of God, Fagaland Garen's score was far ahead of others, and he was the first to break 10,000 points. The rest of the Knights of God were also hunting frantically. The smell of blood shrouds the Valley of God, giving everyone a sense of despair that is difficult to escape. Ha 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 ha! It's no use! Marine! Follow Lousy! The Rock's pirates! A dark crimson cape fluttered behind Rocks. There seemed to be an unprecedented madness in him. With a loud shout, he rushed out first. Facing the Marines' gunfire, they charged forward. Behind him, it's the monster army. Wait! Rocks! You're being too reckless! Seeing this, Whitebeard used the power of the tremor fruit to strike forward fiercely. Snap, snap! In an instant, countless Marine ships were shattered. Whoever gets it is the winner, right? Shiki the Golden Lion laughed while biting his cigar, then jumped up. The ability of the float fruit is activated. The Marine warship suddenly soared into the air without warning, then rolled over and crashed into the sea, causing heavy losses. Then I'll take it! Charlotte Linlin rushed out, stepping on Prometheus, who had transformed into fire. But that thing is meaningless to you, Linlin! Kaido shouted, following closely behind. What he wanted to say was that he didn't want Charlotte Linlin to be at the forefront. The captain looks like he seems to have forgotten his purpose. Stussy shook his head helplessly. Rox explained that the purpose of coming here was to obtain the secret treasure of the celestial dragons. That was the news spread by Genie the Azure Dragon Fruit and the Meatball Fruit. But Rox seems to want to kill more now. Yoon narrowed his eyes and stared at Rox's unstoppable figure. The great secret treasure is just an excuse. Rox definitely wants to kill everyone here. Yuan shook his head, jumped up and chased after Kaido and Linlin. His physique makes it easy for him to perform moonwalk. Hey! You guys, confirm the target as soon as possible! Whitebeard shouted from behind as a reminder. Newgate, you bastard, stop bossing Lousy around! The Golden Lion Shiki rushed into the Valley of the Gods without looking back. Mama, you should just quietly take what you want and then get away with it. What are you all thinking about? Charlotte Linlin's eyes flickered. The one who rushed to the front had the greatest chance of getting the great secret treasure. Once she got the great secret treasure, she would retreat. Why does it feel like a decisive battle? Achika carried a huge sword and chopped a marine battleship in half with a heavy sword strike. Then let's decide the winner. Galoliosa smiled with her hands covering her mouth, but her eyes were particularly sharp. The tight and slender body is as dangerous as a cheetah. Everyone! Get on! Bodhi suddenly rushed into the sea and attacked the marine warship not far away. You can't stop Lousy with this level of skill. The silver axe suddenly smashed a warship into pieces. The Marines suffered heavy casualties. The Rock's pirates have landed. Marine can't stop these monsters at all. Leave the Marines that rush over from all around to the other pirates to deal with. All the cadres rushed into the Valley of God. In the Valley of Gods. Upon learning of the Rock's pirates' attack, the celestial dragons were furious. Damn it! Who leaked the information? How could that lunatic Rox find this place? Saturn Satan had an extremely gloomy expression on his face, and was very wary of Rox. And the voices of the other 5 elders came from the den mushy in front of him. Cyborg sent a message that he and Garp will be here soon with the Marines. If possible, this might be a good opportunity to eradicate Rox. Sartan sneered and said, If we eliminate Rox, all the celestial dragons here will be buried with him. There was a noticeable silence on the Den Den Mushi side. Don't worry, Jialanxing will make the decision. I don't know who said this. The Rox pirates are powerful. But the power of the celestial dragons should not be underestimated. The Knights of God, Saturn Satan. The elite Marines led by Kong Gang and Garp are about to arrive. They have already anticipated the scene of the coming Great War. Suddenly, a golden warship broke through the defense line and rushed into the Canyon of God at an extremely fast speed. Oro Jackson. Roger Pirates appear. It's the Roger Pirates! A desperate voice came from the Marine. The appearance of top fighters such as Roger, Rayleigh, and Jabba once again made Marine despair. They are total cannon fodder. The defense line was torn apart again. Jialanxing stopped what he was doing, looked at the figures running rampant on the coast, his face slightly gloomy. What a shame! What's the point of this defense? His words were full of disdain for Marine. All Marines! Stand down and protect the celestial dragons! God's Knights! Attack! A true collision of peak power. The Valley of Gods has completely transformed into a Shura field. In this chaos, Kong Gang led the elite Marines to finally arrive. This gave Marine, who was originally in despair, a glimmer of hope. Reinforcements are coming! It's Lieutenant General Garp! We are saved! The Marines were very excited. Roger, what are you bastards doing here? Garp rolled up his sleeves and rushed towards Roger, who was not far away. Garp! Even you can't stop this from happening! Roger laughed and rushed forward at an even faster speed. They all came for the great secret treasure. Maybe this is the meaning of pirates. Asshole! Lousy won't let you do whatever you want! Garp was in a very bad mood. He rushed forward to stop Roger, and the two sides fought while moving towards the central battlefield. Zafar, follow me to protect the celestial dragons in the Valley of Gods. We must not let them get hurt. Cyborg called out to Zifa and quickly approached the center of the battlefield. Staff Officer Crane was directing Marine to fight on the periphery. Zhang Guo was severely injured by Yuan's sword and missed this epic battle. The entire God's Canyon began to shake violently. Jialanxing led the Knights of God to stop Rox and his officers who were rushing to the front. Rox, taking your head off is more fun than theirs. Jialanxing showed no fear and his eyes were shining brightly. Guys from the Knights of God, ha ha ha, I'm going to kill you all today. Rox laughed ferociously, his palms quickly flowing with annihilating darkness. There was a blood-red glow in his dark eyes. Big secret treasure? Devil fruit? Now Rox may only have one thought in mind, killing. Clang! Jialan Saint draws his sword. Suddenly engaged in battle with Rox. Whitebeard, Shiki the Golden Lion, Achaku, and Silver Axe were also stopped by members of the Knights of God. The war broke out completely. An unprecedented battle. A battle between top monsters. Destroy heaven and earth. The end of the world. Various devil fruit abilities appear on the battlefield. Golden Lion Shiki looked at the member of the Knights of God who was blocking his way, the member of the Mamea family, but he couldn't help but glance behind him. Charlotte Linlin, Kaido, and Yuan sneaked in. Laozi's Piao Piao fruit ability didn't even fly over. These three guys are really insidious. The pirates attacked, causing the situation to become extremely chaotic. This gave Ivankov and his team an opportunity. Successfully stole 2 devil fruits. One looks like a bear paw, and the other looks like dragon scales with 2 dragon horns. This is our hope of escape. Ivankov's eyes lit up with hope, and he was about to eat it. Brush. A strange shadow suddenly flashed past. When Ivankov came to his senses, the green dragon fruit in his hand had disappeared. Then a chuckle came from his ears. This devil fruit is not suitable for you. Ivankov turned his head in surprise, just in time to see a young man walking slowly with 2 swords on his waist. And the shadow that took away the green dragon fruit came to his side, and took the initiative to hand over the green dragon fruit to the young man as if consciously. You use your soul to comprehend the ability of the phantom beast species, the green dragon form. You successfully comprehended the new ability. You can give the power of the blue dragon to the shadow. That's my shadow! Ivankov's jaw almost dropped when he looked at the shadow. That is obviously his own shadow. How could you be separated from yourself? Could it be that the boy in front of me is also a devil fruit user? Yoon, you actually took the lead! Charlotte Linlin flew over and grabbed Bartholomew Bear. The target is naturally the meatball fruit in his hand. Big Bear! Eat it quickly! Don't get snatched away! Then go and save people! Even if you save just one, it's our victory! Ivankov shouted at the top of his lungs. In the hands of the big bear is their last hope of escape. Humph! This is not the place you should come! A terrifying aura suddenly appeared from behind the bear. Big Bear's entire body was instantly knocked away by the mysterious force. The meatball fruit in his hand that he hadn't eaten yet rolled to the ground, and a shadow suddenly appeared. Yoon grinned and got the meatball fruit. Then he looked up at the person who attacked the big bear. The old man, who came riding on black flames and lightning, exuded powerful pressure and looked down at Yoon and others with indifferent eyes. Children of the Bacania tribe, you will only be a slave or die in this life. This is an option dictated by history. Sartan looked at the big bear, his eyes full of judgmental murderous intent. And you, the pirates who disrupted this hunt, you will all die here. The black flames on Sartan's body gradually burned more vigorously, full of unspeakable meaning and a sense of horror and oppression. Charlotte Linlin's face was slightly solemn. Are you 5 elders? 5 elders never appeared, so she didn't recognize it either. But this aura and pressure, as well as the old man's appearance, should mean that the 5 elders have not escaped. What nonsense are you talking to him about? Kaido swept out with a mace. Boom! A strong aura surged from Sartan's body, and his entire body suddenly grew several times larger. Huge horns sprouted from his forehead, huge spider legs grew from his feet, and black flame clouds surrounded him. It is the sign of fruit awakening. Phantom beast species. Gyuki form. As scary as a demon. The black crutch was suddenly withdrawn, and the huge tyrannical force directly blew Kaido away. It hit Yun's side hard. Ahem, this guy doesn't look weak. Kaido got up, still looking fighting, but his eyes were slightly solemn. Phew. Charlotte Linlin grabbed Prometheus with her palm, and the flames rose up in the storm, instantly turning into a super flame attached to her hand. It seems we can't escape unscathed. Linlin turns to battle mode. She would not watch Kaido being bullied in vain. Sartan, who transformed into a huge monster, looked down at Yoon, who was holding 2 devil fruits, and said in a cold voice, Hand over the devil fruit! This is not something a lowly pirate deserves to touch. When Yoon heard this, his narrow eyes narrowed. The terrifying aura that made Gyuki Satan's heart palpitate. It enveloped him instantly. Buzz! There was a faint sound of wind whistling around. Or maybe it's the lament of the dead. Anyway, no matter what the situation is. The atmosphere became solemn at this moment. Just because Yoon narrowed his eyes, that's all. You used your soul to comprehend the power of the meatball fruit and successfully comprehended the ability of the devil fruit. Obtain the ability of the meat puff fruit. Yun's power has definitely reached its peak at this time. 2 weeks have passed since I killed John, fought Roger, and hacked Zhang Gua. His physical growth has slowed down and reached an insurmountable bottleneck. But this means reaching peak combat power. Conquerors has always been growing in strength, and has Conqueror's Kamui training technique. Conqueror's Kamui are inherently stronger than regular Conquerors. Nowadays, both the intensity and amount of his domineering power are absolutely terrifying. There are also various devil fruit abilities contained in the body, resonating with every cell. And the most powerful method, the awakened form of the Dark Lord. Yuan's strength can only be described as unfathomable. Even Satan, one of the 5 elders, in the form of Gyuki, felt the strong pressure and throbbing. This guy. Kaido subconsciously took a step back. He turned his head and looked at Yuan, his eyes filled with indescribable shock. Yun's aura is dangerous. Extremely dangerous. Yun has become stronger again. This is. Gyuki Satan's eyes suddenly shrank. The sudden throbbing in his heart made him alert. He stared at Yuan fiercely with sharp eyes, and the wanted notice of Yuan gradually emerged in his mind. You're the guy who seriously injured Sengoku! Gyuki Satan shouted in a low voice, looking extremely alert. He's seriously injured. It looks like Sengoku is not dead. Yuan shook his head and murmured with a hint of regret. It's worthy of the Warring States period. He is indeed very lucky. Then you should die for him. The words fell. Yuan suddenly raised his head and looked directly at Gyuki Satan, his deep eyes twinkling like stars, yet a storm was sweeping across them. Conqueror's Kamui gushed out of his body like a substance. Gyuki Satan frowned and also launched Conqueror's domineering attack. Boom! A collision of spirits. Thunder roared in the sky. Thunder in the sky. Extremely violent. Clean up the surrounding area thoroughly. Bang! Gyuki Satan took a sudden step back. The look on his face was filled with shock and solemnity. They can actually knock me back. What a terrifying conquerors! He was even more shocked. There are actually people who can use conquerors to knock themselves back. How strong is he? Far away, watching the conqueror's collision storm erupting in the center of the Valley of the Gods, rushing towards the sky. All the strong men on the battlefield looked at him with awe. Those guys who just slipped away. Fegaland Galanshang's face suddenly darkened. There are pirates sneaking into the central area. That already poses a threat to the celestial dragons. Ha ha ha, those guys from Yuan didn't let Laozi down. Rox laughed heartily, with endless darkness surrounding him. He thought that Yuan and his men would kill people there and steal the secret treasure. Think of this. The dark matter around him began to roll violently again. A body slowly fell out of the darkness. A member of the Knights of God. Even when fighting with Garanshing, Rox still has the power to kill others. How horrible! Jialinsheng looked grim, but he was not afraid. He said coldly, Satan will deal with those damn guys who broke in. The main forces under your command are all here. No one can be Satan's opponent. As he spoke, he glanced at Whitebeard and Golden Lion. Perhaps the two of them could stand up to Satan. Other pirates can't do it. Sartan is a user of the awakened form of the mythical beast. Really? Rox showed a meaningful smile, then sneered. I don't care about the outcome in there. Laozi just needs to kill you all. Swish. Conqueror's entanglement bursts. Flowing dark matter wrapped around the fist. Rox's figure shuttled quickly, and suddenly appeared in front of Jialinsheng. Bang! Jialinsheng suddenly drew his sword and slashed out with Ba Chan. Under the violent roar, he stepped back repeatedly. What a weird devil fruit ability! Jialinsheng's face became more solemn. The dark fruit is simply too terrifying in Rox's hands. Rox has not shown any other form of ability at all. However, every time they fought, part of his strength would be invisibly swallowed up and dissolved by the flowing dark matter. It was extremely strange and even impossible to crack. This caused Jialinsheng a lot of headaches. At the same time, the fighting on the battlefields around them was also extremely fierce. Why do I feel something is wrong? Garp frowned and fought Roger with his iron fist, but he kept looking around, feeling a sense of indescribable strangeness. Garp, are you distracted? Roger slashed down fiercely with the sword, forcing Garp to retreat several steps, very surprised. Garp was distracted at a time like this. This was not like his character. Garp paused, looked at the crowd around him, his eyes suddenly widened, and exclaimed, It's the shadows! Their shadows are gone! Damn it! It must be that damn bastard Yun! Roger frowned slightly. Shadow? He subconsciously looked around, slightly surprised. A large part of Marine is missing, which is why it looks so weird. There are at least several thousand shadows, right? Has that fellow Yuan controlled all of them? Roger looked confused. Thousands of shadows. Yun quietly collected thousands of shadows. This is a bit scary. Garp also realized the problem. His lips trembled with anger as he cursed. That sinister and cunning guy! I will never let him go! Garp wanted to rush in and find Yun. But what about Roger? If Roger was not stopped, he would definitely rush in to look for the great treasure, which would be dangerous to the celestial dragons. Garp is extremely helpless at this time. He had no choice but to stop Roger, feeling extremely aggrieved. It's all because of these Tianlong people's reckless behavior that we have the current situation. In this kind of battle, anyone could die. Whitebeard! That's enough! Steel Bones Sora rushed towards Whitebeard and fought with him. In such a chaotic battlefield, Whitebeard, who transformed into Earthquake Man, became even more powerful. The sky collapsed and the earth collapsed. Countless Marine soldiers and world government guards were killed. Kong! You're old enough to still be able to move. Whitebeard was not afraid at all, and attacked boldly with the determination to kill Kong. However, at this time, Whitebeard had given up the idea of entering the core area to snatch the great treasure. After a chaotic battle, the Marine, who was in despair, gradually stabilized the situation under the command of Vice Admiral Tsuru. All the Marines surrounding the Valley of the Gods came over to this side. The pirates who only cared about charging and killing without any plan were already at a disadvantage. The strong ones restrain each other. However, there is a gap in basic combat power. Of course, it is more because the Marines who came to support have an absolute advantage in numbers. Bang, bang, bang. Ivankov was knocked to the ground and rolled far away. His whole body was trembling. Under this vague pressure, it seemed difficult for him to even think of escaping. The big bear gritted his teeth and held on to a huge rock deep underground under his feet with both hands, so he was not knocked away. The storm gradually subsided. Yuki Satan's face was filled with shock, and his expression was uncertain. The big bear struggled to raise his head, looked at the young figure, and couldn't help asking, "Are you here to save us?" The young man in front of me was very scary and his aura was very frightening. But he felt no malice. Unlike those two giant-like men. Yuan raised his eyebrows and turned to look at Bartholomew Big Bear. The future tyrant bear. His heart was slightly moved, but he still shook his head and said, "I am not. But I can help you once." The big bear's dull eyes suddenly lit up. "Kaido, are you interested in eating a devil fruit?" Yun held 2 devil fruits and waved them towards Kaido. "What are the abilities of these 2 devil fruits?" Kaido's eyes lit up and he asked with interest. "One is a blue dragon fruit, and the other is a meatball fruit." Ginny's voice rang out, and she mustered up the courage to come to the big bear. "Kaido, of course you should choose the azure dragon fruit, it's a mythical beast." Charlotte Linlin gave her advice. "It's even rarer than Logia." Kaido thought thoughtfully. "Mythical beast azure dragon. Lousy likes it." Whoosh. Yun already knew this would be the answer, so he threw the azure dragon fruit directly to Kaido. "It is indeed suitable for you. This devil fruit can improve your strength in all aspects: attack power, defense power, resistance, endurance, and flying ability. Especially the defense power, it will be very powerful," Yun praised. "The azure dragon fruit is indeed powerful. After all, I experienced it myself." Kaido took the azure dragon fruit and was slightly stunned. "Such an important mythical beast, Yun gave it to me without saying anything? Do you too want this meatball fruit?" Yun turned his head and asked. Charlotte Linlin frowned and said, Don't mess around. You don't want to give the meatball fruit to this kid, do you? If you keep this devil fruit, you might end up. It will be useful. She has eaten the soul fruit. Besides, the meatball fruit was snatched by Yuan, so she naturally wouldn't ask for it. Kaido already has the azure dragon fruit, so he won't want the meatball fruit. It's just a devil fruit. Yuan smiled indifferently. Anyway, I have the ability of the meatball fruit. The fleshy fruit tastes the same to everyone. The devil fruit is given to you. Whether you can save yourself and your friends depends on your fate. Yun threw the meatball fruit to Big Bear. But he had no intention of helping. Today's battle will not end easily. Everything is unknown. Thank you. Big Bear thanked him, somewhat bewildered. Seeing this, Ginny immediately pulled the Big Bear away and urged him. Hurry up, eat the meatball fruit first. She was afraid that Big Bear would give in to her. The Big Bear stuffed the meatball fruit into his mouth, wishing he could swallow it all in one gulp. He didn't care even if it tasted extremely bad. He just wants to have the power to save more people. Ivankov also got up from the ground, quickly met up with Big Bear and Ginny, and then went away. Yoon looked away. Just now he was thinking about whether to recruit Daxiong to train under his command. But Ginny took the Big Bear and ran away, so forget it. Ginny didn't know that because of her fear, she missed the most important opportunity of her life. Gyuki Satan's eyes were spitting fire. He watched Yoon distribute the devil fruits without paying any attention. The killing intent suddenly rose. Little ghost! You are indeed very strong, but you will never get out of the Valley of Gods today. The stronger they are, the greater the threat to the rule of the celestial dragons. So death is even more necessary. Flame clouds rose into the sky. Gyuki's huge spider legs stomped down towards Yun. Let me deal with this old guy. Kaido took a bite of the azure dragon fruit, then threw it away with a look of disgust. It was so damn disgusting. One bite of the fruit will give you the power of the azure dragon. Buzz. A strange power surged into Kaido's body. He suddenly stepped forward, wrapped his hands around Conqueror's domineering power, and suddenly caught the huge spider leg. A powerful impact force fell. The ground beneath Kaido's feet began to crack, but he did not take a single step back. Experience the power of the devil fruit and let the power in your body burst out naturally. Yuan took a look and began to give orders. Drink! Kaido growled. His body seemed to have grown a little bit quietly. His figure became more sturdy. His muscles were slightly bulging, and he was filled with a sense of strength. Next second, a radical change occurred. A pair of dragon horns grew out of his forehead. His body was covered with a layer of deep green scales, fangs, sharp claws, and half of a dragon tail emerged from behind him. Kaido directly turns into beastman form. Just like the Gyuki Satan before him. A beast in human form. Looks horrible. But the strength has increased greatly. Oh la 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 la! Wonderful power! Kaido's arms suddenly shook. He actually pushed Gyuki Satan back repeatedly. Kaido grabbed the 8 saber rings with his backhand and rushed towards Gyuki Satan. Damn it! You ate the azure dragon fruit! I will kill you! Gyuki Satan had a fierce look on his face, with black flames floating around him, but the cane in his hand turned into the most terrifying weapon, colliding violently with Kaido's 8 precepts. Kaido's body was shocked and he couldn't help but take a few steps back. He shook his arms and continued to rush out. He fought Gyuki Satan fearlessly. Although they are in a very obvious suppressed state, they will not be defeated quickly. Kaido also quickly comprehended the ability of the blue dragon fruit through high-intensity combat. In the form of just taking the devil fruit, it is naturally impossible for him to be a match for the awakened form of Gyuki. Are you just going to watch him do this? This is their base camp. We should have left after we stole the devil fruit. Charlotte Linlin frowned and couldn't help complaining. Although Kaido is not stupid, the state of having just obtained the devil fruit directly stimulates his desire to fight. Don't worry, today's battle won't end so soon, Yuan said calmly and comforted her with a smile. Charlotte Linlin frowned even more deeply, feeling that there was something else behind what Yuan said. Where's your shadow? She always felt that Yuan was waiting for something. The results are a closer look. Yun's shadow disappeared without a trace. Yun smiled but said nothing. Okay, so you have bad intentions too. Charlotte Linlin cursed and turned to rush to the side. Just look after Kaido while I go find other great treasures. If I find it, I'll share it with you." The righteous and generous figure walked away. Yun retracted his gaze and watched the battle between Blue Dragon Kaido and Gyuki Satan, but half of his attention was on Shadow Yun. 10,000 shadows, almost reaching the limit of the Shadow Kingdom. Shadow Yun shuttled through the battlefield. Crazy Shadow Collection. By Shadow Yun. He saw two devil-like figures fighting each other. Devil Fruit. Rock's dark fruit is something you can't miss. Yun has always been extremely curious about the dark fruit. The characteristics that naturally restrain the devil fruit ability users. A special way of absorbing damage. This makes this Lovia's devil fruit stand out. The most important thing is Yun's Dark King form. If you fuse the dark fruit, the power of the Dark King will definitely increase. It's just a pity that Yun never had the chance to comprehend the power of the dark fruit. Today, a dangerous war. It's the best opportunity. Yun had his own ideas in mind. Now was not the time for him to take action, so he avoided the frontal battlefield. You observed the battle of the mythical beast Gyuki, and learned the abilities of the mythical beast's Gyuki forms. A flash of enlightenment came into Yun's mind. Another surge of strength surged into my body. The demonic abilities of the animal system will directly enhance the physical strength. Gain super strength. With the accumulation of several devil fruit abilities, Yun's physique became stronger and stronger. Every cell seems indestructible. The true peak state of physical training. It's like a physique that has been honed for decades, extremely strong and unreasonably strong. Plus the two major talents of Iron Balloon and Golden Muscle and Jade Bones. The physical body is invincible. The Gyuki form can grant Shadow new devil fruit abilities. I wonder if the other 5 elders will show up. Yun grumbled to himself. Each of the 5 elders is a super powerful mythical beast. Kaido has just eaten the blue dragon fruit and is no match for the awakened Gyuki Satan. Speaking of which, the awakening of the animal type, apart from Nika, only the world government has achieved it. Even Kaido, who is so powerful, was unable to activate the awakening form in the final battle on Onigashima. What secrets does the awakening of the animal system hide? Yun frowned, having some doubts. He was just about to comprehend the power of his animal-type devil fruit and explore the secrets. The battlefield in the distance suddenly shook violently. A powerful and frightening dark aura suddenly became stronger. It's rocks. Yun's heart trembled, and he observed the battlefield situation on Rock's side through Shadow Yun. Endless dark matter flowed through Rock's body. It was floating behind him like a black flame. That arrogant and overbearing figure brought an indescribable sense of oppression to everyone. Even someone as strong as Jiao Xing would find it difficult to gain any advantage. In Rock's dark and devouring eyes, the madness became more and more obvious. Ha 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 ha! Dragon pigs, die here! He now gives people the feeling of a completely crazy beast. No one can stop him. The words fell. The darkness under Rock's feet suddenly spread along the ground and spread in all directions. Like a surging tide, it instantly covered most of the battlefield. For a while, an incomparable dark atmosphere fills the air. It's frightening, horrifying, shocking, and terrifying. Everyone standing in the darkness had a thought in their mind. I will be swallowed by darkness. Even Whitebeard and Silver Axe's faces changed drastically, and they felt a strong sense of crisis. Is this madman going to destroy this place completely? Garp's heart trembled suddenly, and a few drops of cold sweat oozed out of his forehead. Roger looked solemn and said in a deep voice, I'm afraid he wants everyone to die here. Rocks! Are you crazy? Cyborg yelled in frustration. The darkness spread out by Rocks is like a domain, covering all the marines and pirates fighting on the coast. If we devour all these people, there will definitely be a sea of blood. Dark fruit possesses infinite gravity and space like a black hole. It can absorb everything that comes into contact with darkness and compress and crush it with infinite power. Once swallowed by darkness, they will completely lose the ability to resist. Rocks! Die! Jialin Xing swung his sword fiercely, and the conqueror's domineering aura in his body burst out without reservation, all wrapped around the famous sword in his hand. The flashing thunder was like an exploding and roaring ocean of thunder. Emerge above this darkness. Especially conspicuous. Ha ha ha! Laozi is going to be the king of the world! Anyone who stops Laozi will die! Rox laughed up to the sky. He suddenly stretched out his hand, and madly rotating dark matter suddenly condensed in the palm of his hand, like a huge shield blocking in front of him. Buzz! Jialin Xing's almost full-strength attack landed in the dark vortex. The earth-shattering power was not able to erupt at all. In a flash, all the power was swallowed up by the darkness like a black hole. What? Jialin Xing was suddenly startled. I didn't expect Rox to defuse the attack in this way. Is the dark fruit so powerful? Un, who was watching the battle quietly, couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Rox, is he just taking the damage? Is he crazy? The dark fruit can absorb damage, but it will suffer 3 times the pain. Bang! The dark vortex dissipated. The huge hand that had been shrouding the darkness quickly reached out. Clang! The iron palm grasped the blade of Galen's saint. Boom! Rox followed with a punch. The fist intertwined with darkness, and lightning suddenly enlarged in Jialin Xing's eyes. Jialin Xing is indeed very strong. But the full-force attack just now was swallowed up silently by the darkness, making him feel like he was punching cotton, and he was now in a state of exhaustion. At this time, the momentum was at a disadvantage. The endless darkness behind him rolled up huge waves and surged towards him. No! It's everywhere! At this time, Jialin Xing is in darkness. The dark matter flowing around him submerged him in an overwhelming manner. Galen! Damn it! How can there be such a powerful devil fruit ability? The other members of the Knights of God were shocked and worried about Saint Galen. The darkness completely engulfed the figures of Rox and Galen Xing. Boom! Boom! In the dark, a strong vibration broke out. You can feel how crazy the fight inside is. But they couldn't be seen outside, and they didn't know what the situation was like. Everyone stopped fighting. Everyone was tacitly waiting for the final outcome in the darkness. Whitebeard, Golden Lion, Silveraxe, Achaku and others have already begun to think of retreating. This is not the picture they want to see at all. Rox is like a man-man. A man-man who is completely out of control. It made them feel shocked and terrified. Things didn't go as planned at all. They gathered together, waiting for the final result. If there is any problem, we will definitely leave as quickly as possible. Garp and Roger looked at each other and felt a tacit understanding. They don't want to see the worst outcome. If you can, team up to stop Rox. Otherwise, everyone here will die. The identity change between enemy and friend. The faces of the Knights of God were gloomy, and they were not optimistic about Saint Galen. After all, the strength displayed by Rox was somewhat beyond expectations. The noise in the darkness is getting louder and louder. There were even a few blades of light that penetrated the darkness, revealing shadows. The people in the darkness are fighting desperately. For several minutes, the entire battlefield fell into a continuous silence. At some point, bang! The darkness rips. Jialin Xing suddenly rushed out, or rather flew out. He looked extremely miserable, with blood stains at the corners of his mouth, and his breath was extremely weak. Da-da-da! He landed and took several steps back before finally leaning forward, using the knife in his hand to support his body. Galen! Galen! Are you okay? The Knights of God gathered around, and one of them supported Galen Xing. Jialin Xing threw away the person who was supporting him and roared fiercely. Hurry! Let's go together! Kill him at all costs! Otherwise we'll all die! Although Jialin Xing was seriously injured, he was able to fight his way out of the darkness of Rox, which was enough to show how powerful he was. When the people from the Knights of God heard this, their eyes instantly became extremely sharp. Brush, brush, brush. Several figures rushed directly towards Rox, who emerged from the darkness. Ha 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 ha! It's too late! Let Laozi bury them all in the darkness! Rox laughed crazily, and his aura was terrifying. The moment the words fell, the darkness that had originally stopped spreading actually expanded again. The entire island was covered in the blink of an eye. Dark matter flows. Rocks, trees, weapons, buildings, and people. They are all being slowly swallowed. Even the feet of Whitebeard, Golden Lion, and other members of the Rox pirates began to collapse. Rox! Are you crazy? Whitebeard roared angrily and moved rapidly. I didn't expect Rox to be able to tell friend from foe. What on earth are you going to do? We are family! The Golden Lion Shiki's face darkened and his body suddenly floated up to prevent himself from being swallowed by the darkness. However, I still feel that the ability of the float fruit has been affected a little bit. However, Rox seemed not to hear it, and the darkness on his body was still overflowing wildly. Marine soldiers and pirates all began to fall into darkness. The feeling of suffocation is overwhelming. The figures of the Knights of God who were rushing up were blocked outside by the darkness that Rox suddenly gathered, making it difficult for them to get close to him. Yuan looked at the darkness flowing under his feet, his eyes slightly solemn. Rox is really crazy. With such behavior, it would be strange if Whitebeard and Golden Lion didn't rebel. This doesn't take their lives seriously at all. If they were unable to break free from the darkness, they would have been swallowed up. You use your soul to comprehend the dark power. Even though he cursed, he would not miss the opportunity to comprehend the power of the dark fruit. Rox, that bastard! Gyurki Satan yelled in frustration. Several celestial dragons fell down in panic and were engulfed by darkness. If Rox is not stopped, 99% of the people on this island will die. If we can't resist the power of darkness, we will die here. Kaido retreated to Yun's side with a gloomy tone. He knew Rox was cold-blooded. But I didn't expect him to be so cold-blooded and ruthless as to attack his own people. Yuan! Kaido! Let's go! Rox is crazy! Charlotte Linlin rushed over from a distance and shouted loudly. Their strength is also enough to escape being swallowed by the group darkness. The darkness beneath my feet was like a quagmire, swallowing up everything. But if you are strong enough, you can still break free. But faced with this situation, the executives of the Rox pirates were all dissatisfied. They can survive, but ordinary pirates may not. Let's go! I'll turn into a blue dragon and take you away. Although the darkness beneath our feet has some restrictions on the devil fruit, we can still leave. Kaido broke free from the engulfing darkness beneath his feet and spoke hastily. But the next second, he couldn't help but be stunned. He exclaimed in surprise. Oon, how are you okay? Everyone's feet are plunging into darkness. Gyuki Satan is no exception. Only Yuan. Both feet still feel like they are on the ground. The devouring darkness has no effect on him. Charlotte Linlin was also stunned, then she reacted and urged. Don't worry about it for now. Zeus, get bigger! Come up quickly! She herself treads on Prometheus's cloud of fire. He also turned Zeus into a huge thundercloud and gave it to Yun and Kaido. Kaido, who was about to transform, jumped directly onto Zeus when he saw this. He looked at Yun, who didn't move, and urged. Yun, what are you thinking about? Let's go! Rox doesn't care about our lives anymore, what are we waiting for? Charlotte Linlin had guessed that this day would come and had been preparing for it all the time. Yun raised his head and said to them, If we leave now, what will happen in the future? Kaido and Charlotte Linlin, these two allies, did not disappoint Yun. If Whitebeard, Golden Lion, and the others were here, Kaido and the others would not care. But now I won't leave. The two men looked as if they were eager to rush down and carry him away. What do you mean by later? I don't care about the later. Charlotte Linlin cursed, and directly controlled Prometheus to swoop down, trying to grab Yun and leave. As long as Rox is alive, he will come after you again, Yun said calmly, his eyes gleaming with a depth of emotion that was hard to tell. Charlotte Linlin was stunned. What are you talking about? Yuan is going to kill Rox. Damn, there's a lunatic here. Do you really want to kill him? He's not that easy to kill, Kaido said in disbelief with his eyes wide open. They instantly understood the unspoken meaning of Yuan's words and were extremely shocked. I just wanted to watch him die, Yuan said confidently. More importantly, even though he could sense the fluctuations in the power of the dark fruit under his feet, he was unable to fully comprehend the power of the dark fruit. Yuan finally put his mind on Rox. You're fucking crazy, Kaido yelled. I really want to twist off Yuan's head and open it to see what's inside. You can't leave. Stay here for me. Gyuki Satan broke free from the darkness and rushed towards Charlotte Linlin and Kaido, who were about to escape. Damn old thing! Kaido's eyes narrowed, and he was about to rush down to continue fighting. You guys go, I'll take care of him. Yun stopped Kaido from acting impulsively and turned to walk towards Gyuki Satan. You bastard! Charlotte Linlin didn't know how to persuade Yun anymore, so she turned to Kaido and said, Help Yun deal with this old man first. Just what I wanted! Kaido was about to jump down. Yun said helplessly, You don't have to do anything, just go if you want to. You have done your best as an ally. Either come with us, or we kill him together. Charlotte Linlin threatened. Judging from the situation, Yun has to leave. Yun shook his head helplessly and could only say, Wait for me to kill him with a knife and then leave. Kill him with one sword. Kaido and Charlotte Linlin didn't realize it yet. The knife that Yun said? It's really just one knife. At this time, the battle situation in the Valley of the Gods was still being transmitted to Marihoa via the video phone worm. However, in order to avoid causing unnecessary panic, the other 5 elders turned off the images that the Tianlong people could see, and only the screen in front of them flashed the scene of the battlefield. A main battlefield where Rox is located. Rox, who has fully unleashed the power of the dark fruit, is like a devil from hell, suppressing the Knights of God alone and devouring the lives of the entire island. And another picture. Naturally, it was the battlefield of Gyuki Satan. Damn it, the blue dragon fruit and the meatball fruit were actually taken away like that. Nasu Shilangshing's face was extremely gloomy, and more of his anger was directed at Rox leading the pirate group to appear and disrupt the celestial dragon's hunting activities. What is Saint Satan doing? Hurry up and deal with these guys and stop Rox. If it's too late, Rox might really succeed, Saint Watchley said urgently, leaning on his crutches. Naturally, they think Rox is the toughest enemy. Besides, Rox now wants to kill everyone on the island. He must be stopped. But the kid in front of Satan is not simple either. Even Zhongguo defeated this evil guy. I'm afraid it won't be so easy to solve him, Peter Saint said in a serious tone. He always felt that Yun was a little too confident. Either he is a newborn calf that is not afraid of a tiger, or he is really confident. Peter Saint naturally prefers the former. They don't think that Yun will be a match for Gyuki Satan, even if Yun defeats Sengoku. It's just the awakening of Paramecia. Saint Maz snorted disdainfully and then said, Should we take action? The teleportation array can be set off at any time. Compared to the Valley of God, Mary Geos needs us more. The Knights of God and the world government's large forces are not here. Peter Saint analyzed calmly. Rox is really a madman. But he is too crazy. He actually resisted the damage. Even if the characteristics of the dark fruit can absorb the damage, the pain he suffers will be doubled. If this continues, his body will definitely reach its limit. Na Shou Langxing held the magic sword in his arms and said in a cold voice. The eyes behind the glasses were as sharp as a knife. Something's wrong. Look at the shape of that little devil. Maz Sheng's surprised voice immediately shifted the attention of the other 3 people to the battlefield between Gyuki Satan and Yun. Gyuki Satan heard the conversation between Yun and the others, and his anger burned fiercely. I am the awakened form of the mythical beast species. You think you can defeat me? Don't think you can stand before me if you defeat Zhongguo. You are ignorant of the immensity of the world. Gyuki Satan laughed in anger, his eyes full of gloom, looking at the ant-sized figure under his feet with murderous intent. The awakening form of the mythical beast species is completely different from the awakening of the ordinary species. Gyuki Satan was extremely confident. Even if the three of them joined forces, I can still remain invincible. The giant spider legs that looked like they were burning with black flames were raised high, ready to step down as if to crush an ant. Call. The wind is dancing. A sense of oppression like a mountain collapsing came over him, and a huge shadow enveloped Yuan. It is difficult to see that peaceful face. Call out. A dark shadow as fast as lightning rushed over. Boom! A tiny shadow blocked Gyuki Satan's powerful trampling. It's Shadow Yun. What is it? Gyuki Satan was slightly surprised. Is there such a method? The key is, why is a shadow so strong? Yun suddenly had the idea of giving his shadow a Gyuki form to fight the real Gyuki Satan. I guess Gyuki Satan would be completely confused. But he was just thinking about it. Time is precious. Can't waste it. Buzz! Power burst out from within Yun. An extremely deep shadow flowed in the depths of his pupils, and his aura suddenly increased. In the blink of an eye, he became terrifying, full of oppressive aura. Yun's body slowly floated up, until it came above Satan Gyuki's head, looking at him indifferently with the attitude of a god overlooking the world. Gyuki Satan's eyes suddenly widened, and countless question marks flashed through his mind. How the hell did it fly? Charlotte Linlin and Kaido were also dumbfounded when they saw this scene. What was going on? How did Yun do it? The shadow fruit doesn't have the ability to fly. Kaido was completely confused and bewildered. Could it be that he developed this ability? Charlotte Linlin frowned. How much do we still not know about this guy? Since shadows can move in the air, perhaps Yun is using the special properties of shadows to float. Charlotte Linlin guessed silently. They have no idea at all. Yun is using the power of the float fruit openly. As long as it's not too obvious, who would have thought that Yun has other devil fruit abilities? This is something I dare not even think about. Darkin Lords, awaken! As Yun's mind moved, the dormant power in his body completely awakened. Just like a wild beast awakening from the ancient times, a sudden sense of oppression swept over, and Gyuki Satan's heart trembled violently. It feels like being stared at by some horrible monster. Is this really the awakening of the shadow fruit? Gyuki Satan was a little confused at this moment. This kind of oppressive feeling is not as strong as Charlotte Linlin and Kaido. Even Whitebeard is not so strong. He seemed to finally understand why the Warring States period failed. An illusory shadow ripples in the space around Yuan. The Darkin realm is formed. Just now, Shadow Un returned, bringing with him all the shadows he had looted and storing them in the Shadow Kingdom. Total number of shadows, 12,000. A strange power enveloped Yuan. The golden mark on the forehead suddenly became extremely bright, emitting a circle of golden light, shining like a crown. The Shadow King returns to the world. Standing in the void, overlooking the sea. The shadow cloak behind him floats like a black flame cloud that symbolizes awakening. The most obvious sign of the awakening of the mythical beast form is the black flame cloud. But Yun changed his form. The shadow fruit is just paramecia. Wouldn't it be too outrageous if a black flame cloud appeared? So this is why there was no flame cloud around Yuan after he awakened in the beginning. However, the flickering shadows around seemed to be no different from the flames. The two swords were drawn out. Reincarnation. Blue flame. Yuan did not activate the enhancement of the 10,000 shadow battle armor. He also did not use the shadow form. A simple state of awakening ability, and the slashing of the shadow realm. His current strength has changed dramatically compared to when he fought against Zhang Guo. The animal-type devil fruit strengthens his physique again. The power of the soul fruit, the tremor fruit, and the float fruit will naturally be integrated into his power. Even if I don't go all out now, the power it unleashed was far greater than the sword that killed the Warring States. The light suddenly shines. The heaven and earth sword burst out again. This hell! Send you to reincarnation! An indifferent voice like a decree from God sounded. The wind suddenly howled. Thunder roars in the sky. Conquerors Kamui entangled in an instant. Double swords and one cut. Hell whispers. The road to reincarnation. Who can stop this samsara? Gyuki Satan's expression suddenly became horrified. This knife instantly made his scalp numb. The previous strong self-confidence had long since dissipated. He could not sense any murderous intent from the knife, but the aura everywhere gave him a feeling that he could die at any time. What the hell is this move? Shadow fruit. Bullshit, that's pure bullshit. Whose shadow fruit has this ability? Gyuki Satan was shrouded in death, and his fierce nature was stimulated, and he became completely crazy. The black flame cloud surrounding his body seemed to be burning fiercely, almost enveloping him. Lightning roars. Conqueror's domineering aura is released and entangled. All in one go. The gigantic Gyuki in the sky has completely transformed into the real Gyuki monster in the night parade of 100 demons. Demon-possessed. Monsters are coming. Gyuki Satan's aura became extremely terrifying, yet exceptionally cold. There was no emotion in his eyes, as if he was staring at the knife coming down from the sky with an indifferent look like a killing machine. Ah! It let out a weird roar. Then he suddenly rushed forward. Gyuki! The roar was clearly human-sounding. But it is still extremely terrifying. At this moment, Gyuki Satan completely transformed into a demon god, rushing out with overwhelming force. The entire Valley of Gods. Everyone looked up in disbelief, looking at the terrifying confrontation in the sky. Whitebeard's expression changed slightly, and he said in shock, "That knife again! Yun and the 5 elders are fighting! Damn! Why does it feel like he's gotten stronger again? Whitebeard is numb. Why is it that each time Yun strikes, he is stronger than the last time? This simply doesn't make sense. He didn't know that Yun was not at full power yet. But it's better than ever. That's Yun? What the hell did that kid do?" Golden Lion Shiki's eyes widened, and he finally understood how Yun had defeated Zhang Guo with just one blow. This is too perverted. Silver Axe, Achaku and the others were completely dumbfounded. There was only one thought in my mind, that bastard John deserved his death. Who can stop this knife? That bastard actually started killing. Garp's face trembled, his face full of anger. He was very familiar with this knife. But what made him even more angry was that Yun actually attacked in the central area. If Satan hadn't been there to guard it, the consequences would have been disastrous. Was this knife wielded by Yun? Roger also felt incredible. A move stronger than the divine avoidance. The last time I fought with Yun, that guy didn't show such a terrifying attack. Everyone was dumbfounded. Satan has activated his strongest form? Who is fighting him? Jilin Sheng looked stunned and extremely surprised. Is there such a scary guy in the Rox Pirates? No wonder Rox was so confident. It turned out he had arranged for the pirates to rush in. Judging from the situation, the opponent is still very powerful, and even Satan has to go all out. Whitebeard and Golden Lion from the Rox Pirates are both here. Who launched that attack? What a terrifying aura! Even from such a distance I can feel a chill in my bones. Don't worry. Satan won't lose. The power of the awakened mythical beast is far beyond their imagination. Yeah, once we kill Rox, everything will be over. After a brief shock, the Knights of God immediately launched another attack on Rox. They still believe more in Satan's power. Or say, it's the power of the mythical beast Gyuki. It is not easy to sit on the highest power position in the world of 5 elders. Rox waved his hand and stirred up infinite darkness, drowning the attack of the Knights of God. Ha ha ha, this really surprised Laozi. Let Laozi go and fight. Kill them all. Rox laughed loudly, looking crazy. Compared to Gyuki Satan, he is more like a demon. Rox thought that Yun was fighting for him. Although he was shocked by Yun's power, he couldn't think too much now. Killing these people is the main goal. Rock's ferocious smile made everyone feel cold. What? This is the strongest monster in the Rock's pirate group. A newcomer can have such strength. When Garen Shing heard Rock's laughter, his heart sank suddenly, and he found it unbelievable. The fact that he seriously injured Sengoku made the Knights of God aware of Yun's existence. But who would have thought that Yun was so strong? Jialin Xing's eyes were extremely solemn. Such power is no weaker than lousy. Can Gyuki Satan really be his opponent? This moment, the firm confidence in Jialin Xing's heart began to waver. What the hell is going on? The five elders could feel the extremely shocking power through the screen and could no longer remain calm. How can the power of the shadow fruit be so strong? Isn't it said that this guy is just a new member of the Rock's Pirates? How could he be so outrageous? The five elders were a little confused. There is definitely something wrong with the intelligence. How could such a terrifying guy be a newcomer? Damn rocks! Could this be the trick he has been hiding all along, waiting for the critical moment to strike a heavy blow to the world government? Nasu Sholangxing said with gritted teeth. They had an instant guess. But unfortunately I guessed wrong. Don't worry! Gyuki in his full form is invincible. Saint Satan will definitely tear that kid's head off. The five elders still have strong faith in Gyuki Satan. Perhaps. If they experienced it themselves, they would not think so. The world is silent. Charlotte Lin and Kaido stared blankly at the invincible sword in the sky, their hearts filled with fear and turmoil. Yun, is this really Yun? Kaido opened his mouth, but could hardly utter a complete sentence. They watched Yun grow up. Although they were used to his perversion, who would have thought that he would be the ultimate pervert? Doesn't it really mean that he increases his strength by drinking water? Madman! Charlotte Lin finally thought of what Yun said. Wait till I kill him with my sword. When you say one blow, do you really mean to kill the five elders with one blow? The power displayed by Yun at this moment shocked and numbed everyone. Even Whitebeard and Garp, who had seen Yun slash the Sengoku with his sword, were shocked again. Too strong. The only way to describe it is powerful. A storm swept across the heaven and earth. Yun's figure was faintly shining in the endless sword light. Next second, the blade cuts down. The demon god Gyuki, who was fearless and bursting with all his strength, rushed towards the blade with all his might. The crushing victory he had expected did not happen. Rather, he himself suddenly felt the terrifying power coming. It's like the power of heaven and earth, enveloping oneself. His full strength attack was blocked the moment of collision, and it was difficult to advance even a little bit. It was as if an unshakable mountain stood before him. It makes people feel desperate. The wind and clouds are howling. The earth trembles. Conquerors might reveal the power that shook the world, as if it was going to destroy everything. In this situation, no one would doubt that Yun wants to destroy the canyon of gods more than rocks. The blinding light shines like the sun. In an instant, the storm is roaring. The clanging sound of swords resounded through the sky of God's Canyon, echoing between the two peaks and vibrating the eardrums. Gyuki Satan's figure was completely submerged in the sword light. Boom! A huge mass of something flew out. Gyuki Satan! The black flames that surrounded his body quickly dissipated, and his huge, cold pupils went blank for a moment, and his consciousness became blurred. It collided with the ground with a loud noise, and the entire God's Canyon shook violently at this moment. Even the dark matter flowing around was dispersed by the impact, revealing an extremely deep cemetery with smoke and dust rising out. The storm in the sky gradually dissipated. The bright sword light converged, revealing a domineering figure that looks down on everything. One knife! Kill Gyuki Satan! Now! Yun showed his invincibility. The tall and straight body stood in the air, his cold and brilliant eyes were cast down, holding two swords, like fire, like the Tao, like reincarnation. Wherever the blade goes, everything is destroyed. A gentle breeze is blowing. The strands of hair on his forehead were slightly messy in the flickering light of the golden mark, making him look exceptionally handsome and powerful. No one dares to treat him as a teenager anymore. Countless people were suffocated by this scene. 5 elders Satan was killed with just one blow? Holy Land Marihoa. Inside the majestic Pangus city. The eyes of the other 5 elders widened, their expressions completely frozen. It was as if he was under a spell and couldn't move. That shows how shocked they were. Bang! Mazshin came to his senses, slammed the table, and stood up, shouting in disbelief. Satan couldn't even withstand a single blow. Saint Satan, defeated? How is this possible? How could Gyuki's awakened form not even be able to withstand a single blow? Maz Saint's face turned pale and his heart was heavy. Who on earth is this kid? How can he be so powerful at such a young age? Nas Haolangsheng's eyes flashed with strong fear. Shadow fruit? If it weren't for his incompetence, he would have believed that this guy was the sun god. Quickly start Satan's teleportation. Call him back. Saint Vasily said immediately. Satan is already seriously injured, we must not let him die. What happened? That guy Satan couldn't even withstand a single blow. Who on earth is that? This is like the second rocks. Where did all these monsters come from? The people of the Knights of God exclaimed in surprise, their faces filled with shock. They finally worked together to break through the dark blockade, only to see such a ridiculous scene. The 5 elders. The awakened form of the mythical beast Gyuki. He was killed instantly with one sword. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. Even if I kill them, they will never believe it. The atmosphere of the entire battle was extremely solemn. Good job, Rox. I didn't expect you had such a strong man hidden on your ship. Jialanxing gritted his teeth, his internal injuries making him a little weak. A terrifyingly powerful Rox is already so tricky. Now there is another ruthless person who defeated Gyuki Satan with one sword. The Rox pirates are so terrifying? It's too much. Shiki the Golden Lion was bewildered and muttered. It was really hard for him to accept that Yuan's strength had grown to this point. Originally, Shiki thought that Yuan was pretty good because he was about the same as himself, but now it seems that he is actually much better than himself. To know! When monsters at the top levels of strength fight each other, even if they fight with all their might, it will take a long time to determine the winner. Fighting for several days and nights is not just a casual remark. After all, everyone's strength is similar, and it is difficult to find flaws. A competition of hard power is destined to be a war of attrition. But now, Yoon is totally unreasonable. Use the ultimate move right away. The key is that he actually did it. How can anyone resist that terrifying sword? Who the hell is he? Did you train him? The smile on Roger's face disappeared completely. Even he couldn't laugh, so you can imagine how turbulent his emotions were. He doesn't seem to need training. Whitebeard responded to Roger's question with a wry smile. The strength displayed by Yuan makes people feel helpless. You have no way to deal with him, and you don't even know how his strength has increased. Learning Haki, comprehending hegemony, awakening the fruit, it seems to happen naturally. Born to be a king! How else to explain it? Cyborg and Garp were both dumbfounded, and Zifa's eyes were slightly dull. This scene had a great impact on them. They even subconsciously believed that the Warring States' defeat was not unfair, and that they were lucky to be alive. Even Rox looked surprised. Yoon was able to defeat Satan with one strike? Is he hiding his strength? Rox narrowed his eyes slightly. The rhythmic darkness around him showed his inner unrest. This moment, the strength displayed by Yuan made him feel a little uneasy. There seemed to be signs that things are getting out of control. And the next second, Rox explodes again. The power of darkness suddenly became stronger. The people who were still in shock at what happened to Yuan suddenly felt a tremor in their hearts, and sensed a greater crisis. Whitebeard, Golden Lion, Achiku, and Silver Axe all looked gloomy, and they quickly broke free from the darkness and moved away, ready to evacuate from the Valley of the Gods at any time, The feeling of uneasiness that rocks gave them was getting stronger and stronger, forcing them to consider their own way out. Kill him! Jialanxing roared in a low voice, his expression slightly ferocious. He didn't expect that he would be defeated by rocks. In fact, the difference in strength was not that big. It was mainly because of Rox's weird tactics that he lost the upper hand and fell into a disadvantage. But now! Never give up! Rox must be stopped. If we let him do what he wants, it will be the real doomsday. He gritted his teeth, squeezed out all the strength in his body, and rushed out with his knife. The overwhelming conquerors burst out again. Lightning arc flashes. Go all out. Fight hard. We can't just watch him succeed. The members of the Knights of God suddenly came to their senses and burst out with all their strength again. Several powerful figures attacked Rox at the same time. Rox's smile widened again. The whole body is filled with extremely dense darkness. A strange aura was flowing, making people feel horrified. Just you guys. Rox grinned, and his domineering figure emerged from the darkness. The fist was completely submerged in dark matter, filled with the power of the dark fruit. At the same time, lightning roars. It is also entangled with the extremely powerful conqueror's domineering aura. He threw an unreasonable punch at Jialanxing and the members of the Knights of God who were charging straight ahead. It seemed that he was stimulated by the strength that Yuan just displayed. Rox now attacked with all his strength, as if he was fighting for his life. He wants everyone to see how powerful he is. Be afraid of your own strength and surrender, instead of being shocked by a little. Devil on your own boat. The darkness covering the entire God's Canyon is trembling. It seemed like he was going crazy and jumping for joy along with Rox's high spirits. An extremely powerful punch appears. The Dark Lord's full-strength punch. It's only the size of an ordinary fist, but it feels like it's overwhelming. This punch. Covering the world. Overbearing. Absolutely domineering. The tyranny that transcends everything. Roger! Do you still want to help Rox? Garp asked Roger in a low voice, his eyes extremely serious. One rock is tricky enough. But now there is another person in a positional situation, Yun. The situation is very unfavorable. If Roger intervened at this time, that would be the worst outcome. Roger took a deep breath and exhaled heavily. Let's find a way to deal with the threat of Rox first. Roger is very rational. After witnessing Rox's madness and power, he felt extremely fearful. The existence of such a madman is a disaster for the world. Besides, even though he is a pirate, he doesn't want all the tens of thousands of people on this island to die. Garp and Roger looked at each other and nodded at the same time. Move quietly and unnoticeably, looking for a chance to escape. Rox punched alone, attacking the Knights of God. Boom! A strong storm swept through. The attacks from both sides collided fiercely as if they were about to land on the same spot. Rox fought against several people alone, and he was not at a disadvantage. Both sides launched a terrifying destructive attack. But neither of them took a step back. The darkness that spread across the island gradually gathered around Rox. Even the Dark Lord was under tremendous pressure when facing the joint attack of the Knights of God. The released dark power is now gradually retracted into the body, and the dark vortex on the fist becomes deeper and thicker. It is like an endless dark abyss slowly flowing, invisibly swallowing up a large part of the attack. If it weren't for the characteristics of the dark fruit, I'm afraid that even Rox would find it difficult to confront several members of the Knights of God head-on. However, even so, crazy use of the power of the dark fruit consumed his own physical strength, and even Rox could hardly bear this horrific consumption. Not to mention that the attacks that were swallowed were completely using the physical body to absorb the pain. There is considerable damage to the body. Especially willpower is even more tormenting. Rox's face turned visibly pale. The power of the howling tyrant on the opposite side showed no signs of weakening. This time, all the Knights of God are ready to fight to the death and will never back down easily, or they are extremely determined to kill Rox. Both sides vowed to determine the winner. Rocks took action alone. Whitebeard, Shiki, Achaku, and Silver Axe showed no signs of taking action. Instead, they pretended to fight with the Marines around them. Perhaps they are no less afraid of Rocks than Marine. At least Whitebeard, Golden Lion, and others joined Rocks because they did not want to be killed by Rocks. If Rocks dies, only then can everyone be free. Freedom. To build your own power and pursue your own dreams instead of following Rock's orders to fulfill his dreams. The drawbacks of conquering by force are revealed. They have no doubt about Rock's power. But judging from Rock's actions just now, they distrust Rocks even more. The right time, the right place, and the right people. At this moment, Rocks alone holds the power. If Yuan were here, he might understand why Rocks fell. Too conceited. Or rather, it's crazy. So crazy that people around him were terrified of him. No one can guess what Rocks is thinking. He is moody, bloodthirsty, ruthless, and cruel. Rocks! You alone can't defeat all of us! Jialanxing's face was also terribly pale. Blood continued to drip from the wound just inflicted. But he has the Knights of God beside him, fighting with all their might. Ha 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 ha! Laozi is the strongest in the world! No one can defeat Laozi! Dark Abyss! Rocks roared suddenly. The dark matter flowing throughout his body suddenly exploded, spreading like a sandstorm. The power of darkness is fully unleashed. Boom! Conquerors is a total blast. All the members of the Knights of God were shocked and flew backwards. Rox's attack completely broke the stalemate. Or say, Rox didn't want to be consumed any further. He is very strong. But the cost of continued fighting is also extremely terrifying. Just like now. Rox also flew backwards, his feet leaving 2 scratches on the ground. The darkness that was originally released was completely retracted into the body. You are so proud of yourself for being able to withstand Laozi's attack. Rox laughed unruly. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth carelessly. Rox is injured. This is a signal. The invincible Rox showed signs of fatigue at this moment. Fistbone Galaxy Impact! 2 angry shouts rang out at the same time. The shocking fist light wrapped with Conqueror's domineering aura rushed towards Rox. Cyborg and Garp attack at the same time. All-out attack. Rox had just stabilized himself, and before he even had time to catch his breath, 2 fists filled with terrifying power had already rapidly enlarged in his dark pupils. Rox frowned and punched out with both fists at the same time without any fear. Conquerors turned into thunder and lightning. The power of darkness still seems extremely powerful. 4 fists collide. The violent force struck again. The endless darkness flowing under the rocks is heart-pounding. His body trembled slightly, but his steps did not retreat at all. 2 consecutive violent blows. The surroundings had long been swept away by the impact force, and the Marines and pirates were blown away without being able to resist, leaving a large open space, like a heaven and earth arena, where a life and death battle was going on. Rox! How long can you hold on? After such a long and intense fight, I'm afraid you've exhausted all your energy and can't hold on any longer, right? No one is invincible! Cyborg roared, as if he was cheering himself up. Garp's eyes were firm, and even though his fists were shaking slightly, he still refused to give up the attack. Ha ha! Laozi can't be killed by you guys! The veins on Rock's forehead bulged, and he had obviously reached his limit. The reckless action eventually became too much for the pirate overlord. If Garp really fights alone, he will never be a match for Rox. But the general trend is inevitable. Rox clearly came here with his own pirate group. But isolated and helpless. He was too disdainful to ask for help. Ask for help? It would be better to die. The reason why the Overlord is called the Overlord. Because it's heroic. If Xiang Yu had crossed the Wujiang River, it's hard to say what the outcome would have been. But at least considering his rebellious and arrogant spirit, it is equivalent to death. The same goes for Rox. Not to mention, Rox doesn't believe he will lose. Dark. The power of darkness surges. The dark matter condensed and swirled again, knocking away Cyborg and Garp at the same time with even greater force. Rox stumbled slightly. The pale face and dark eyes formed a sharp contrast. At the moment when Garp flew backwards, he suddenly shouted loudly. "Roger! Ha! Here it comes! God avoid!" The sharp ace entangles Conqueror's domineering power. Suddenly appeared behind Rox. Rox's repeated fights consumed a huge amount of energy. After all, it is impossible to resist the combined efforts of the Knights of God. Before he could catch his breath, he started a fight with Garp and Cyborg. Even gods need to take a breath at this moment. But Roger has been waiting for this moment. If you want to defeat Rox, now is undoubtedly the best time. Rox gasps after his full force burst, like a beast showing its back to the enemy. Ace of the 12 Supreme Swords. The extremely powerful Conqueror's domineering aura. Future One Piece Roger's full force burst. The arc whistled. The light and shadow flow. Roger's figure appeared behind Rox incredibly fast. The knife fell towards Rox's head. Everything around seemed to stop at this moment. Everyone stared with eyes wide open, looking forward to the final result. Can Rox block this knife? This is the time when people felt Rox was most likely to die. Roger the bastard! Rox sensed the attack from behind. His face darkened, and he shouted angrily. The dark power in the body surged out without any warning. In the blink of an eye, it condensed into a rotating deep vortex behind him. Everything happened in a flash. Roger was slightly surprised. He didn't expect Rox to react so quickly. Besides the dark vortex defense in front of him, maybe he can actually withstand his attack. Roger's mind flashed, and he made a decision in an instant. Press your wrist down suddenly. The sword that was about to chop at Rox's neck suddenly deviated downward and fell towards Rox's back. The powerful impact instantly tore the crimson cloak behind Rox. The dark vortex behind Rox formed extremely hastily, with the head and neck at the center of the vortex. But Roger blasted towards the edge of the dark vortex. Swish! Bang! The terrifying knife finally fell. It hit the edge of the dark vortex hard. A violent and destructive impact broke out in an instant. Especially the power of the hegemony, which is unstoppable like a rotten wood. The dark vortex spun rapidly, devouring the attack power of Roger's blade. But the power is too strong and even the darkness cannot completely dissolve it. The black vortex is swirling. Next second, shattered with a loud bang. Just like countless black dust drifting away. The dark power's defenses were breached. Clang! Roger held the knife in both hands and chopped it down suddenly. Bang! There was a dull sound like that caused by heavy objects colliding with each other. Rox's arrogant and domineering figure was suddenly blown away. His eyes flashed with an inexplicable meaning that no one noticed, and his face was extremely gloomy. A sudden attack. Even Rox himself was unable to defend in the most perfect way. It was even the first time he was blown away since the battle. Boom! Rox's body was surrounded by black smoke, and he smashed into a huge stone wall, causing the thick stone wall to collapse, burying the devil-like figure inside, emitting countless dust and ashes, completely covering the last trace of darkness. Trace. There was dead silence all around. No matter who they are, they all remain in a state of not daring to breathe. I don't know who spoke first, but asked the question that everyone was thinking about. Is Rox dead? Whether it is the person who asks this question or others, they all want to hear a positive answer. But no one can guarantee it. At the same time, the battlefield where Yun is located. Kaido and Charlotte Linlin finally came back to their senses from the shock of the knife. I'm afraid his strength has caught up with that Rox guy. Charlotte Linlin narrowed her eyes and said in disbelief. Second Rox. Regardless of other things, at least it is a symbol of absolute power. Even Lousy couldn't block that knife. Kaido's face changed again and again, and he gritted his teeth and said helplessly, Lousy, I really don't understand what kind of monster he is. He was so weak before, but he is transforming every day. He has become stronger than usual. Is he still human? The more talented the monster is, the greater the blow he will feel from Yuan. Strength is growing at an unreasonable speed. Hard to accept. Hard to accept. Hard to accept. If it was shocking at first. Now I feel helpless. Because Yun's strength has grown to a level that people look up to. Kill Satan with one strike. After Yuan's figure fell, he suddenly looked up. I sensed a strange wave coming from where Satan fell. Shadow Yun rushed out quickly and rushed towards Gyuki Satan. A few seconds later, Shadow Yun returns. Yuan shook his head helplessly and said regretfully, "As expected, everyone in this world has the ability to lock blood. Same as his mother except for the famous sword Siming. Gyuki Satan was seriously injured, but not dead. He was teleported back by the 5 Elders' teleportation array, leaving blood-marked lines on the ground. But it is certain that Gyuki Satan was seriously injured, very seriously. It seems that this Samsara sword needs to be strengthened." Yun pondered. Last time it was the Warring States period, this time it was the Gyuki period. Yuan expressed great regret that he was unable to enter reincarnation. "He got away with all this," Kaido said in disbelief. "It was just a trick of the world government. We were careless." Yuan shook his head, feeling very regretful. Can we go now?" Charlotte Linlin came forward, her helpless look clearly showing that she was too lazy to ask about Yuan's growing strength. Whenever you ask a question, they say, "I don't know either," or, "My strength will just naturally increase." It makes anyone feel upset. I wonder how the battle over there is going. Kaido turned his head to look at the battlefield and rocks and said in a low voice, "Let's go and take a look." Yun reached out and grabbed Zeus and jumped on. "Don't mess around," Charlotte Linlin said quickly. "Why are you still going there? Let's just leave. Who knows what the situation is there?" Yun said seriously and firmly. "I'm not kidding. I want to see rocks die with my own eyes. The main thing is the ability of the dark fruit. I must get it." Besides, he wasn't afraid of Rox now. And Rox is doomed to die today. Unless something unexpected happens, Rox is dead. "You bastard!" Charlotte Linlin was helpless, and couldn't persuade him at all. "Don't worry, we can take a sneak peek at the situation from the sky and then leave," Yuan said with a smile, obviously without the pressure of Charlotte Linlin and Kaido. "I think it's okay. We are in the sky anyway and can leave at any time." Kaido nodded and agreed. He also wanted to know how the battle was going. "There's really nothing I can do about you." Charlotte Linlin wanted to tie them both up and take them away. Finally, Kaido jumped onto Zeus and rode on the thundercloud with Yun. Charlotte Linlin rode Prometheus and approached the outer battlefield. There, everyone was paying attention to the movement buried in the dust. "There's been no movement for such a long time, he must be dead, right?" Someone from the Knights of God spoke up. But no one dared to come forward. Whitebeard, Golden Lion and the others also looked a little uneasy. The life and death of one person stirs up everyone's emotions. "Captain, how's it going?" Rayleigh walked behind Roger and asked in a low voice. Roger looked a little serious. That guy shouldn't be dead. He could feel how powerful Rox was. Even that one hit seemed to be insufficient to completely end Rox. Rayleigh adjusted his glasses and looked at the other members of the Rox pirates inconspicuously. Even if Rox doesn't die. But in this situation, as long as Whitebeard and the others don't intervene, Rox should not be able to escape. Chi. Suddenly a voice came from the smoke. The gravel and soil gradually disappeared, as if they were sinking into the sea. It's a pity that the sea water where it sank was black. Dark matter spread out, clearing away all the surrounding ruins. The smoke and dust receded, revealing the domineering figure still standing. Everyone's eyes fixed at the same time. "He's not dead after all." Jialin Xing's eyes were solemn and he whispered coldly. Tada. Come step by step. Ha, Roger. I didn't expect Lousy to be hurt by you. Rock's deep laughter sent chills down one's spine. Rox, you are too crazy. Your existence is a disaster for the world. Roger looked at Rox fearlessly, and held Ace tightly in his hand again. Ha 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 ha. You all want Lousy to die. Rox slowly turned his head and scanned the entire audience with a cold and deep gaze. Whitebeard and Golden Lion Shiki were a little afraid to look him in the eye. It was indeed a dishonest thing they did, but it was also caused by Rock's own actions. The two parties have been in a cooperative relationship since the very beginning. No one can blame anyone at this time. Roger and Rayleigh did not shy away. Cyborg and Garp took a step forward at the same time. The Knights of God are also ready to take action again. But Lousy will not die! Rox roared arrogantly. There was a trace of crimson on the ground beneath my feet. Everyone who was keeping an eye on Rox immediately noticed this situation and used their observation hockey to quietly investigate. They just noticed. There was a deep knife wound on Rock's back, and blood was dripping. It was the injury caused by Roger's previous blow. See this scene? The Knights of God are greatly confident. The powerful and invincible Rox is finally injured. This is the signal. Rox, you are injured. Jialanxing laughed coldly. Although he was smiling, that smile was as chilling as if he was cannibalizing someone. It doesn't matter if Lousy is injured. If you want to kill Lousy, come and try. Let's see if Lousy can kill you all. Rox smiled grimly. The words fell. The dark matter in his body burst out crazily, sweeping around him like a storm. The power of the dark fruit is Rock's greatest reliance. Jialanxing's heart sank. Rox at this moment is far more terrifying than before. It was like a beast about to die, its last crazy move, no one could bear it. After so many battles, he still has such power. Rayleigh's face darkened and he said in disbelief. Roger grinned and took a step forward. The next battle will be a real fight. Everyone must be prepared to die. Roger suddenly became excited at this moment, and the fighting factor in his body seemed to be burning. Rox, you are destined to die in this battle. Your men won't help you, so you'd better accept your fate. You can never overturn the world by yourself, Gang Gukong said with a sullen face. Attacking the heart is the best approach. This group of guys. I didn't expect this either. Rox laughed sarcastically. As long as Whitebeard, Golden Lion, Achaku and others can hold back a few people, today's battle will be completely decided by themselves. What to do? A bunch of traitors. Rox, you were the one who didn't care about our lives first. Golden Lion Shiki retorted loudly. You have been using us from the very beginning. Lousy is not a puppet to be manipulated by others. Whitebeard shouted while holding the Kusanokiri, completely falling out. In that case, Captain Rox, I hope you die here today. Achaku picked up the giant's sword, his voice solemn but extremely serious. Silver Axe picked up the giant axe and said, Captain, I don't want to do this either, but you are too scary. If we follow you, we may be killed by you at any time. How can we feel at ease? I'm sorry, Captain. Ross held out his claws. The merman Bodhi actually rushed directly into the sea and escaped. He didn't want to get involved in the battle. At worst, I can just hide back in the underwater world. Just you guys? This world should be ruled by the strong. You weaklings should obey the strong. Rox was still arrogant, and his expression revealed an unprecedented madness. The murderous intent was so strong, and the cold eyes made everyone feel uneasy. Lousy is not a weakling. Rox, don't underestimate Lousy. Whitebeard shouted in dissatisfaction, his eyes revealing coldness. Then there's nothing to say. The Golden Lion shook his head helplessly, and Mu Ku and Ing Shi were unsheathed in an instant. Roger, what do you say? Whitebeard turned his head and looked at Roger. If it's Rox, it's worth our cooperation. Roger was very rational. The more strength we can gather at times like this, the better. Otherwise, it may not be possible to kill Rox. This guy is stronger than everyone else, but more importantly, the power of the dark fruit gives Rox a boost, making him almost invincible. You're not going to sit back and do nothing, are you, Garp? Rayleigh looked at Garp. Garp rolled up his sleeves and said casually, After we deal with rocks, Lousy will come to arrest you. That's what I said. In fact, it is assumed that everyone will join forces. The implication is that we should work together to deal with rocks first, and settle the rest of the grudges later. At the signal of St. Garin, the Knights of God quietly came to the position behind rocks, blocking his retreat and preventing him from escaping recklessly. There were only a dozen figures left in the surrounding open space. Knights of God, marine pirates. In the middle of them is rocks. Still fearless rocks. In the sky. Suddenly, two different clouds floated by, with human figures above them. Rocks is not dead after all. Charlotte Linlin's eyes narrowed. Kaido's eyes widened in disbelief. Those guys actually attacked rocks. This situation is too confusing. Kaido did not expect that Whitebeard, Golden Lion and others would actually take the initiative to attack. It seems we are not too late. The final showdown has just begun. Yuan raised his eyebrows, with a hint of smile on his lips. Not late? Charlotte Linlin and Kaido were both startled, feeling that something was not right. Yuan. Could it be? Next second. Yuan leaped up and dived headfirst. Damn, your sister! Kaido stretched out his hand to grab it, but found nothing. He felt terrible immediately. You are looking for death. Charlotte Linlin suddenly wanted to chop down that bastard Yuan with Napoleon. Bang! The figure fell to the ground. The young man raised his head with a smile, his eyes sparkling and bright, with two swords hanging from his waist. His demeanor was unparalleled. Everyone, it seems very lively here.